Apocalypse, the Hongmeng Pearl acknowledges its master, starting with infinite space. Greetings, fellow multiversal adventurers. It's an honor to have you back in this saga that has us all hooked. Official channel statement, this story is 100% epic fiction. So please don't attempt real magic, the results aren't guaranteed and insurance won't cover it. The rights to this masterpiece belong entirely to its brilliant original author. We are just a barge sharing it with you. Do you want to keep being part of this amazing community? Join our ninja army of subscribers on YouTube and give this content a like. And for true fans, our Patreon has exclusive ninjutsu waiting for you. Chapter 51 The Humble Boss Jet, finally meeting his enemy. Completely defeated, Boss Jet could only kowtow frantically, his head thumping against the cold floor tiles. Yes, yes, yes. Master Long is right. It's all yours. It's all yours. I only beg you to spare my life. I'm willing to be your slave, I'll do anything. Black Dragon seemed to have finally grown tired of this one-sided bullying. His exaggerated smile vanished, replaced by naked cruelty and impatience. You, surnamed Jack, are just like your wife says, a complete coward. With your old arms and legs, what good are they besides wasting food? Fine, I'll take pity on you and let you see how we take care of your wife, and then I'll send you out of this world sooner rather than later, so you don't have to suffer anymore. With his last hope shattered, a glint of madness flashed in Boss Ge's eyes. He sprang up from the ground, and with a strength he didn't know he possessed, like a wounded old beast, howling as he lunged at Black Dragon, his hands clawing wildly, trying to take him down with him. However, at this moment, Black Dragon had already awakened his A-level speed ability. Although it was only recently awakened and his use was still somewhat clumsy, his reaction speed and agility far surpassed that of ordinary people. With a slight sway of his figure, he easily dodged Boss Ge's clumsy lunge, then disdainfully launched a flying kick, slamming it heavily into the man's side. Bang! Boss Ge was kicked away again like a broken sack, crashing heavily into a nearby filing cabinet, rolling to the ground, coughing up blood, unable to get up, only able to groan in pain. The little bit of fighting spirit he had just mustered seemed so laughable and pathetic in the face of such an absolute difference in strength. Hold him down, don't let him die, we still need to let him watch the show, Black Dragon spat, ordering his two henchmen beside him. Looking at Boss Ge curled up on the ground like a dead dog, his eyes glazed over, Black Dragon suddenly felt somewhat bored. He waved his hand, signaling his two henchmen to step forward and firmly hold down Boss Ge's shoulders and head, forcing him to face the sofa. He, with a lewd smile, walked step by step toward the beautiful woman on the sofa, who was almost numb, trembling only with instinct. As he walked, he roughly ripped off his blood-stained jacket and t-shirt, revealing his muscular, tattooed chest. When he reached the woman, he was only wearing a dirty pair of boxer shorts. The two burly men holding the woman released their grip and took 2 steps back, but their eyes remained burning with desire on the woman's half-naked body. Black Dragon reached out and grabbed the collar of the woman's already torn designer top, grinning savagely as he ripped it open. Rip! The sound of tearing fabric was crisp and piercing. The top was completely ripped open, revealing delicate lace lingerie and a dazzling expanse of white, voluptuous skin, its curves breathtaking. The surrounding burly men's breathing instantly became heavy, letting out suppressed, excited growls. Black Dragon's lust intensified, and he didn't stop. The large hand grabbed the beautiful woman's expensive short skirt and black stockings that covered her long, slender legs, and violently tore them off again. No, no. Please. Kill me. Kill me. The beautiful woman was finally awakened from her numbness by a greater fear, letting out a shrill cry, struggling desperately, her legs kicking wildly. She cursed every man present. But there was not a single word of begging for mercy. This desperate ferocity only fueled the perverse desire for conquest of Black Dragon and his men. Ha ha ha. Curse. Keep cursing. I love hearing you scream. Black Dragon laughed wildly, easily subduing her feeble resistance, and it seemed that the last bit of clothing was about to be removed. Just at this critical moment, Boss Ge, who had been held down and seemed half dead, whether it was a final burst of energy or a complete madness caused by the scene before him, suddenly burst out with astonishing strength, breaking free of his restraints and ramming his head into Black Dragon's side, who had his back to him. Ugh! Caught off guard, Black Dragon stumbled and nearly fell, nearly falling to the side. This completely ignited Black Dragon's rage. Damn it! You're asking for it! He roared, turned around, and delivered a powerful punch, slamming it into Boss Ji's chest as he struggled to his feet and tried to pounce on him. Crack! A clear sound of bone breaking rang out. Boss Ji spat out a mouthful of blood mixed with fragments of internal organs, his body flying through the air like a kite with a broken string, smashing through the nearby window and screaming as he fell into the drizzling blood outside. Ah! Help! Help me! Ugh! Boss Ji's screams were instantly drowned out by the even more excited roars of the zombies. The zombies that had gathered downstairs, attracted by the sounds from upstairs, swarmed in, and in a moment, the sounds of tearing, chewing, and Boss Ji's inhuman screams before his death filled the air. The sound of rain, mixed with the noise, clearly reached the office. The beautiful woman on the sofa, witnessing her husband's gruesome end, her pupils contracted sharply, letting out a short, mournful cry, as if her soul had been drained. She collapsed completely, her eyes vacant, only her body trembling unconsciously. The men in the office, including Black Dragon, seemed oblivious to the tragedy outside the window. Some even leaned out, seemingly enjoying the scene of the zombies devouring each other, making smacking noises of amazement. Just then, a figure, like a weightless ghost, silently appeared at the doorway of this office filled with lewdness and bloodshed. The room was dimly lit by the broken window, the heavy atmosphere of hormones and violence masking everything else. Black Dragon and his men were immersed in the impending feast and the entertainment outside the window. Completely unaware, the deadly Reaper had silently descended, its cold gaze falling upon them. Until one of the henchmen standing guard by the door caught a glimpse of a strange, dark figure appearing in the doorway. "You, who are you?" the henchman asked instinctively, startled. At the same time, he reached for Lin Chen's neck, his movements rough and ruthless, displaying the usual bullying of the weak. Lin Chen didn't even look at him. Just as the filthy hand was about to touch his neck, his right hand shot out like lightning, striking the man's wrist precisely and twisting and pressing it downwards. Crack! Ah! A crisp sound of bone breaking and a piercing scream rang out simultaneously. The henchman fell to his knees in a bizarre position, clutching his unnaturally bent wrist. He convulsed in pain, cold sweat instantly soaking his clothes. The other burly men in the office were startled, their gazes shifting from the woman and the window to the doorway. Seeing his companion's miserable state, and noticing that the newcomer was only a tall, seemingly not particularly strong young man, his ferocity was aroused after a brief moment of shock. Chapter 52 Crushing the Black Dragon. The thugs, cursing and swearing, charged at Lin Chen. "Damn it! Looking for trouble, huh? Kill him!" The three closest roared, grabbing chairs, steel pipes, and even their bare hands, their faces contorted with rage as they pounced on Lin Chen. Lin Chen's eyes remained unmoved. He didn't even use his tang sword or firearms. These men, at most stronger than ordinary people, perhaps ruthless when bullying civilians, attacked him with what appeared to be snail-like slowness. He simply sidestepped, stepped forward, and raised his hand. Bang! Crack! Thud! The dull thuds of impact, bones breaking, and bodies falling echoed rapidly within 2 or 3 seconds. The first burly man who charged was struck squarely in the chest by his seemingly casual sidekick, sending him flying backward, crashing into a desk, and collapsing to the ground, completely incapacitated. The second man wielding a steel pipe was caught in his hand, twisted in the opposite direction, and snatched away. The steel pipe flashed like a black shadow, sweeping across the man's knee. A sickening cracking sound followed, and the burly man screamed as he collapsed on his knees. Halfway through the third punch, Lin Chen grabbed his wrist, pulling and pushing with ease. A dull thud of a dislocated shoulder accompanied a pig-like scream. Swift as a rabbit, lightning fast. By the time Black Dragon recovered from his initial shock and anger, his 7 self-proclaimed elite men were all lying on the ground in various contorted and painful positions, groaning incessantly, completely incapacitated. Inside the office, only the faint howls of zombies outside the window, the groans of the wounded on the ground, and Black Dragon's suddenly heavy intense breathing remained. Black Dragon's pupils contracted, his eyes fixed on the young man at the door who slowly withdrew his movements, as if he had merely swatted a few flies. He had initially thought he was just a clueless fool who had stumbled in, someone whose strong men could easily subdue. But in the blink of an eye, they were all wiped out. The opponent's speed, strength, and timing were simply terrifying. Are you also an awakened? Black Dragon's throat was dry, and his voice unconsciously carried a hint of wariness and suspicion. After awakening his speed ability, his confidence had swelled to an extreme, and he regarded ordinary people as ants. But now, facing this unfathomable young man, he felt a strong threat and uncertainty for the first time. He had never truly fought other ability users and did not know the difference in their strength. Lin Chen did not answer immediately. He slowly raised his head, his gaze passing over the groaning minions on the ground, and precisely locking onto Black Dragon's face, who was wearing only a pair of shorts and whose expression was constantly changing. The corners of his mouth slowly curved upwards. It was a smile. But there was no warmth in the smile, only the icy coldness of a frozen river, and the violent killing intent that was suppressed to the extreme and about to burst forth. Long time no see, Black Dragon. His voice was not loud, even considered calm, but every word seemed to be squeezed out from between his teeth. A chilling hatred, capable of freezing the soul, permeated every corner of the room. Black Dragon was startled, a clear look of astonishment flashing across his face. He had only called himself Black Dragon 2 days ago. How did this person know his nickname? He frantically searched his memory, but was certain he had never seen this face before, much less knew such a terrifyingly powerful being. Brother, Black Dragon forced a smile that was more like a grimace, his body tensing slightly, ready to activate his powers to escape or retaliate at any moment. His tone was extremely low, tinged with probing and pleading. Is there some misunderstanding? I don't think I know you. If my blind, useless subordinates have offended you in any way, just say it. Black Dragon, no, Zilong, will definitely give you a satisfactory explanation. In the future, if anything happens in the north of the city, just let me know. His intuition was screaming, telling him, this person is extremely dangerous, not to be fought head-on. He had to humble himself first, probe his background, and save his life. Oh? Confess? Apologize? Lin Chen's smile deepened, but the icy coldness in his eyes almost overflowed. He slowly took a step forward, his footsteps clearly audible in the deathly silent room, carrying an invisible pressure. Then kneel down first, he said calmly, as if discussing the weather, and kowtow 3 times. Make it loud, let me hear your sincerity. Black Dragon's expression changed drastically. Kneel and kowtow? This wasn't just admitting defeat, it was blatant humiliation. He was, after all, a chosen one who had awakened his superpowers, considering himself a future superior being. How could he suffer such humiliation? Brother. Black Dragon's voice rose slightly, filled with suppressed anger and a final show of defiance. We're all awakened beings, we'll run into each other again, why push things to the extreme, why push your luck? I, Black Dragon, am considered one of the... His words trailed off. Because in Lin Chen's hand, a gleaming black pistol had appeared out of nowhere. The muzzle was steady, without the slightest tremor, pointing straight at his brow. The chilling sensation of death gripped Black Dragon's heart instantly. All his threats, all his hopes, were shattered by the dark muzzle of the gun. Cold sweat poured uncontrollably down his forehead and back. His prized speed ability, at such close range, facing an equally unfathomable opponent, was there still a chance to activate? He wasn't sure. A wave of overwhelming fear washed over him. His legs began to tremble uncontrollably. Speak. Lin Chen's tone remained calm, like a judge questioning evidence, but the content of his words plunged Black Dragon into an icy abyss. What have you done to offend me? How will you compensate me so I can stop? Black Dragon's mind raced, practically steaming. He was usually arrogant and domineering, offending countless people, from the small gangs whose supplies he robbed to the families of the innocent victims he tortured and murdered. He couldn't possibly remember them all. Why had this man come here? Bang! A gunshot rang out without warning. The stagnant air in the office was shattered. Ah! Black Dragon howled in pain as his right thigh exploded in a spray of blood. He had instinctively activated his speed ability at the last second, attempting to dodge. But Lin Chen's gun was faster than anyone could imagine. The bullet still tore a chunk of flesh from his thigh, sending a piercing pain through him. Bang! Almost without pause, a second shot rang out. Black Dragon's left leg was also hit. This time, his dodge was a fraction of a second slower due to his injured right leg. And a bullet pierced right through his calf muscle. Thump! With both legs injured, Black Dragon could no longer stand, screaming as he collapsed on his knees, blood quickly staining the polished floor tiles. The extreme pain and the fear of death completely shattered his forced composure. His crotch quickly became soaked, emitting a foul stench. Tears streamed down his face. He no longer cared about saving face, desperately using his still movable hands to prop himself up. He pounded his forehead against the cold, hard ground with a dull thud, heading towards Lin Chen. Big brother. Grandpa. Ancestor. Spare me. Spare me. I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. I'll never do it again. Please, spare my life. I'll give you everything. The cold storage. The supplies. The women. It's all yours. I just beg you not to kill me. I'm willing to be your slave. Your most loyal dog. Please. He pleaded incoherently, the force of his kowtows causing the recently scabbed wound on his forehead to reopen. Blood smeared his face, mixed with tears and snot, making him look utterly wretched and pathetic. He was a complete contrast to the arrogant black dragon of just minutes before, now resembling the previous boss. Chapter 53 Killing the Black Dragon, Avenging the Great Revenge. Lin Chen's eyes held only cold indifference. He looked at the black dragon, who lay on the ground pleading like a limp ragdoll, as if looking at a long decayed corpse. The next 30 minutes became the longest, most agonizing, and darkest eternal nightmare of the black dragon's short life. Lin Chen holstered his gun, slowly stepped forward, and crouched down. A gleaming military dagger appeared in his hand. He didn't kill the black dragon immediately. He wanted this beast, who had committed countless tragedies in his past life and enjoyed torture, to personally experience the extreme pain and despair that those he had cruelly tortured to death endured in their final moments, a pain capable of destroying the soul. Gouging out his eyes, plunging him into eternal darkness, so he could no longer see this filthy world. Crushing bones inch by inch with his limbs. Slicing tendons and peeling skin. Lin Chen's movements were precise and ruthless, like the most skilled surgeon, yet imbued with a deep-seated hatred. Each cut was deep, yet skillfully avoided major arteries and vital organs, prolonging the agony to the maximum extent. Inside the office, a terrifying sound, no longer human, mingled between screams and sobs, echoed. Black Dragon's body, enhanced by supernatural abilities, had become a vessel for prolonging torture. He writhed and convulsed in his own blood, like a giant, skinned earthworm still writhing. His once invincible image as the overlord of the North City was now shattered into dust. Blood stained the cold ground, slowly congealing due to the low temperature. The overwhelming stench of blood drowned out all other scents. Time ticked by, each second feeling like an eternity to Black Dragon. The extreme pain had overwhelmed his consciousness. Only the most primal biological instinct for survival drove his mangled body in a feeble struggle. When Lin Chen finally stopped, Black Dragon was no longer human, his breath as faint as a candle in the wind. Spare, I will be your dog. His remaining ear seemed to still hold a sliver of sound, his remaining consciousness driving his broken vocal cords. Squeezing out a few barely audible breaths, he was still making a final, humble plea. Lin Chen stood up, looking down at the mangled mass of flesh and blood at his feet. He lifted his foot, the sole of his boot stained with thick, sticky blood. Do you deserve it? His voice, as cold as ancient iron, was his final judgment on Zilong. With those words, the blood-stained military boot slammed down without hesitation. Crack! The crisp sound of a throat bone shattering became the last sound Black Dragon heard in this world. The office fell into deathly silence. Only the continued patter of blood outside the window and the faint howls of zombies in the distance seemed to play a mournful dirge for this belated reckoning. Lin Chen expressionlessly flicked the blood off his dagger and sheathed it. His gaze swept over the Black Dragon's remaining followers on the floor, already terrified and even incontinent, and the beautiful woman on the sofa with utterly empty eyes, as if her soul had been ripped away. The first step of revenge was complete. But the reckoning was far from over. Black Dragon's premature death might indirectly save countless innocent lives, but in this cannibalistic apocalypse, even without Black Dragon, there might be Black Tiger or Black Panther. What true safety could there be? Black Dragon's eyes, once filled with violence and lust, were now only a dissipated, lifeless gray. Wide open, they hollowly reflected the pale light from the office ceiling, as if he couldn't understand why he had ended up like this, even in death. Lin Chen glanced expressionlessly at the mangled body on the ground, feeling no satisfaction at avenging his great grudge. Only a cold indifference, like clearing away a pile of hazardous waste. He bent down, grabbed Black Dragon's still intact ankle, and dragged him to the broken window as if pulling a heavy bag of garbage. Outside, the blood rain continued to fall. Downstairs, the horde of zombies attracted by Boss G's blood hadn't completely dispersed. They still lingered nearby, emitting longing growls. Lin Chen exerted force with his arm, throwing the black dragon's corpse straight out of the window. The heavy body slammed onto the wet cement floor with a dull thud. Instantly, like a stone thrown into water, the horde of zombies below erupted. They roared, scrambling for the still warm food, the sounds of tearing, chewing, and snapping bones weaving together into a chilling symphony of death. Cause and effect, retribution is inevitable. The injustice and despair of those he had tortured and discarded as corpses in his past life seemed to find a silent echo in this most primal and cruel way. The black dragon, too, ultimately became food for the zombies, his fate no different from the one he had inflicted on others. Lin Chen ignored the 7 remaining members of the Black Dragon's gang on the ground, groaning in pain from their severe injuries, their eyes filled with fear and pleading. He wasn't being soft-hearted, rather, he knew perfectly well that in this apocalyptic world, especially in this cold chain industrial park that had just been violently ruled by the Black Dragon, there were countless survivors who hated them to the bone and had been bullied and robbed by them. Leaving their severely wounded bodies here would only invite retribution. Sometimes, living to endure the revenge of the victims was a more fitting punishment than a quick death. He turned, preparing to leave this room filled with blood and sin. Just then, the almost forgotten figure on the sofa moved. Himijio, the pitiful woman who had just experienced the brutal death of her husband and the near humiliation of herself, had somehow managed to sit up. Her expensive dress was torn to shreds, barely covering her body, her exposed skin covered in bruises and scratches, her hair disheveled. Tears and blood mingled on her face, making her look utterly wretched, but her once empty and desperate eyes were now fixed on Lin Chen's back, burning with an almost frantic will to survive. Just as Lin Chen was about to step out the door, she lunged forward with all her might, her cold, trembling fingers gripping his clothes tightly. Handsome guy, hero, please." Her voice was hoarse and dry, thick with sobs, tears streaming down her face again. "Take me away. Please, take me away from here. I'll do anything. Really. Serve you, be your slave, do anything." To her, this office, this cold chain industrial park, was nothing short of hell on earth. Her husband had just been thrown to the zombies before her eyes, 7 heavily wounded but still menacing thugs lay around her, and outside, perhaps, more of Black Dragon's henchmen. Staying here would only mean a fate worse than death, a living hell. Lin Chen stopped, slowly turning around to look down at the woman clutching his clothes as if grasping at a last straw. The fear, despair, and desperate pleading in her eyes were clearly visible. However, the aura emanating from her was remarkably pure. He didn't immediately agree. Instead, he frowned slightly, calmly scrutinizing her, and asked in a flat voice, "What's your name? What are your special skills or value?" He needed to assess her worth. In this apocalyptic world, idleness is not tolerated, and compassion certainly doesn't put food on the table. Chapter 54 I'm good at farming. Himijio was taken aback by the question. Special skills? Value? In this situation, a woman who had just escaped the clutches of evil, her clothes disheveled, facing a powerful and indifferent stranger, she knew perfectly well what this question usually meant. A bitter, self-deprecating feeling welled up inside her, but she dared not try to use her beauty or body as leverage. The absolute ruthlessness this man had displayed when dealing with a black dragon made her realize that beauty was probably worthless in his eyes. Her lips moved, her voice barely audible. I'm called Himijio, I'm still a virgin, and I'm also good at farming." As soon as she finished speaking, she felt a wave of absurdity and despair wash over her, her cheeks burning with shame. In the apocalypse, facing such a powerful figure, good at farming seemed like a pale, laughable joke. She could almost imagine his disdainful reaction. However, a clear look of surprise flashed in Lin Chen's eyes. "Farming," he repeated, his tone scrutinizing. In truth, the last vestige of dignity in Himijio's eyes, the fact that she hadn't completely collapsed when facing dire straits, had already tempted Lin Chen to rescue her. His earlier questioning was more of a test of her reaction and composure under pressure. He hadn't expected such an answer. The woman before him, in both her clothing and demeanor, seemed like a pampered, sheltered rich woman, completely incompatible with the idea of farming. Seeing his suspicion, Himijio panicked. She felt Lin Chen seemed more interested in her farming skills than in her virginity. This might be her only chance of survival. She spoke quickly, disregarding propriety, and hurriedly explained, "It's true. My hometown is in the mountainous area of northern Guangdong. I was the first college student in my village. I graduated from Yangcheng Agricultural University with a major in agronomy. I studied it because I wanted to use my knowledge to help my fellow villagers improve crops and lead everyone to prosperity." She took a breath, a bitter look rising in her eyes. "But reality, farming requires capital, equipment, and connections. I was a poor student, I had nothing. Later, I met a man surnamed Jeff. He needed a respectable wife to help him with social engagements and promised to sponsor a project in my hometown. I was too naive, and too eager to accomplish something, so I agreed." Her voice lowered, filled with regret. "After marrying him, at first he kept some promises. Later, when business got busy, I became a vase displayed at home, a decoration taken out to make a show. What I learned was never used again." Lin Chen listened quietly, the surprise in his eyes gradually turning into deep thought. Agronomy major. A theoretical foundation, and perhaps also the foundation of early rural life. In the early stages of the apocalypse, when everyone was busy searching for readily available resources, this seemed like a useless commodity. But what about in the long run? Within the Hongmeng creation Pearl space, the 400 square kilometers of land, the increasingly perfected ecosystem, the gushing spiritual springs, if one wants to establish a long-term self-sufficient foundation, agriculture is undoubtedly the cornerstone of the foundation. The long-term value of a professional agricultural talent with a decent temperament may far exceed that of 10 ordinary combatants. Moreover, after obtaining the life spirit crystal and possessing the ability to massively cultivate absolutely loyal S-level combat power, his concerns about the secrets of the space have been greatly reduced. He has enough strength and control to absorb and settle people with special skills and relatively clean and simple backgrounds. Himi Jiao's background, the drastic changes she had just experienced, and her unyielding spirit in the face of danger all make her a worthwhile candidate for technical reserves. Having made up his mind, Lin Chen spoke, his voice still calm. "I have other important matters to attend to, so it's inconvenient for me to take you with me." Himi Jiao's heart sank into an abyss. The glimmer of hope in her eyes instantly dimmed, her fingers gripping his clothes slipped limply, and she collapsed as if her spine had been ripped away. However, Lin Chen's words followed immediately, "But I can take you to a completely safe place first. I'll come back for you after I've finished my business." A dramatic turn of events. Himi Jiao suddenly looked up, staring at him in disbelief. Despair washed over her by a surge of hope, and tears welled up again, this time with a completely different temperature. Really? Thank you. Thank you. I'll be good. I definitely won't cause any trouble," she stammered, nodding frantically. "Close your eyes, relax your whole body, clear your mind, don't resist," Lin Chen instructed, his voice softening slightly. Himi Jiao didn't hesitate, tightly closing her eyes, struggling to suppress her trembling, clearing her mind of all distractions, surrendering herself completely. The next moment, a strong arm encircled her waist. A warm and reassuring aura enveloped her. Then, a strange sense of weightlessness and spatial displacement washed over her. All the stench of blood, groans, rain, and screams vanished instantly. In their place came a profound, soul-stirring tranquility, a sense of peace and serenity she had never experienced before. "You can open your eyes now," Lin Chen said, releasing her grip. His voice was exceptionally clear in the stillness. Himi Jiao slowly opened her eyes. Immediately, she froze, her lips slightly parted, her pupils contracting sharply, her mind going completely blank. Before her lay a scene beyond imagination. Beneath her feet stretched an endless, thick, soft, verdant meadow, exuding the fragrance of earth and grass. In the distance, a crystal-clear stream flowed gently, its murmuring waters as melodious as heavenly music. Further away, the outlines of green mountains undulated and stretched under the soft sunlight. The sky here was bright and even, devoid of sun, yet filled with warmth. There was no blood rain, no zombies, no bloodshed, and no despair. Just as she was reeling and dazed, Lin Chen's mind stirred. A medium-sized RV appeared out of thin air on a flat grassy field not far away. This was a place Lin Chen had deliberately chosen, far from the creation tree. "It's safe here, no danger. Rest in the RV first, there's food and water inside." Lin Chen's voice pulled her back from her shock. "I need to take care of some things. I'll come back to pick you up when I'm done. In the meantime, don't leave the vicinity, Don't explore far, just wait quietly. He then took out several sets of clean, comfortable unisex sportswear and shoes from his special storage and placed them on the RV's hood. You can change first. Before Himijao could fully recover from this series of shocks, Lin Chen's figure faded and disappeared before her eyes, as if he had never existed. In the vast, tranquil, and beautiful world, only a completely bewildered Himijao and the quietly parked RV remained. After a long while, she struggled to regain a sense of reality from her extreme daze. Staggering to the front of the vehicle, she touched the stack of clean clothes. The touch was real. Looking around, she saw clear water, green trees, grass, and distant mountains. Everything felt terrifyingly real, yet unrealistically beautiful. She took a deep breath. The cool, pure air, filled with the fragrance of grass and trees, filled her lungs, washing away the blood and fear that had seeped into her soul for days. It's not a dream, it really isn't a dream, she murmured, tears silently streaming down her face again. This time, it was the tremor of surviving a catastrophe, the exhaustion of being rescued from a desperate situation, and the endless bewilderment in the face of an unknown future. After a long while, she picked up her clothes, staggered towards the RV, opened the door, and climbed inside. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55 Emptying the cold storage, heading west. Lin Chen reappeared in the blood-soaked office. Without hesitation, he walked to the window, his gaze sweeping over the horde of zombies still feasting below, finally settling on the massive cold chain logistics park. It was time to collect the spoils. He began moving through the cold storage warehouses. The entire cold chain logistics park, those giant cold storage rooms tens of meters high, with internal temperatures maintained at tens of degrees below zero, those mountains of frozen meat, pork, beef, mutton, poultry, seafood, those supporting medical supply warehouses, backup diesel generator sets, industrial-grade refrigeration equipment, even heavy forklifts and hydraulic pallets for loading and unloading, everything of value was stored in his supernatural space. He even left behind packaging materials, protective equipment, and miscellaneous tools in the corners of the warehouses. These massive amounts of supplies were originally the powerful capital that allowed Black Dragon to rise to power and dominate in the early stages of this apocalypse. Now, they had all become the building blocks for Lin Chen to construct his future empire. The entire process lasted nearly an hour. When the last cold storage room became empty, the entire park seemed to have lost its soul, leaving only cold steel skeletons standing silently in the blood rain. The deed done, Lin Chen vanished in a flash, appearing outside the park. He determined his direction and sped towards the west of the city. According to Zhao Kai's vague account from his past life, at the moment the blood rain fell, Zhao Kai and Li Kaiyang's families were together. Each had their wives and children with them, shopping at a large chain supermarket called Jia Jiafu in the west of the city. The two wives and children got out of the car at the main entrance first, only to be met head-on by the torrential blood rain. Within minutes, under the horrified gazes of Zhao Kai and Li Kaiyang, they underwent a horrific transformation into zombies. Zhao Kai and Li Kaiyang, however, managed to escape by going to the underground parking garage. They were then trapped, and after a difficult escape into the supermarket, they huddled together with other survivors in a storage room, struggling desperately. There were several similar Jia Jiafu supermarkets in the western part of the city. Checking them one by one would be time-consuming and laborious. But perhaps it was some unseen guidance, or a vague sense of his nemesis, the second Jia Jiafu he chose bumped into the very thing he was after. Pushing open the heavy iron door that served as his last barrier, a stench mixed with excrement, sweat, rotting food, pus, and death slammed into Lin Chen's face like a solid fist. In the dimly lit space of less than 100 square meters, more than 30 emaciated survivors with numb eyes were crammed together. The floor was filthy, and several stiff corpses were piled haphazardly in the shadows of a corner. And in the innermost part, two unshaven, sunken-eyed, and filthy men were curled up against the wall, Zhao Kai and Li Kaiyang. At this moment, they had not yet become awakened ones, lacking the sharpness honed by fighting side by side in their later lives, only numbness and despair utterly destroyed by fear, hunger, and the pain of losing loved ones. Before entering the supermarket, Lin Chen had already crushed all the zombies wandering inside and out. Adhering to the principle of zero waste, he swept away all the remaining uncontaminated supplies in the large supermarket, food, daily necessities, tools, unopened clothing, and stored them in his special storage. The store was now completely empty. He stood at the entrance to the storage room, his voice cold and indifferent, devoid of emotion. "Come out. The zombies outside have been cleared." These words exploded like thunder in the deathly silence. The numb crowd was stunned for a moment, then erupted into an incredulous clamor, a mixture of ecstasy and weeping. "We're saved? Someone's come to save us. Get out." People scrambled and cried as they poured out of this stinking hell. Some rushed out and immediately knelt down, wailing and kowtowing desperately in the direction Lin Chen had left. Others embraced each other, weeping with joy. The empty shelves were astonishing, but the ecstasy of escaping their doom temporarily overwhelmed everything. Lin Chen ignored these survivors. His gaze, like two poisoned icicles, pierced through the surging crowd, locking onto two familiar yet unfamiliar faces at the innermost edge. Zhao Kai, Li Qiang, his voice, though not loud, pierced the noise clearly, carrying an undeniable command and a suppressed chill. "Come with me." The two men, their names called, trembled, looking up blankly at the figure standing backlit at the door, his aura cold and imposing. They exchanged a glance, both confused and uneasy. "Big brother? You know us?" Zhao Kai forced a smile that was more like a grimace, his voice hoarse and trembling with thirst and tension. Li Qiang also tried to force a smile, but his facial muscles were stiff, his eyes darting away. Lin Chen didn't answer, didn't even glance at them, and turned to walk towards the supermarket exit. His steps were slow, yet carried an invisible weight. Alarm bells rang in Zhao Kai and Li Qiang's hearts. This mysterious, powerful figure had called them out precisely, his tone unfriendly. Follow? The odds were against them. Don't follow? Did they dare? Hesitation, fear, and a glimmer of hope. In the end, all of the unknown power overwhelmed everything. The two exchanged a nervous glance, hesitantly rose, and silently followed, heads bowed, through the empty store toward the faintly lit exit. Their eyes darted back and forth, overflowing with suspicion and fear, yet they dared not utter a single word. Lin Chen led them directly to the spacious eaves outside the supermarket's main entrance. The blood-red rain continued to fall sparsely, pooling into dark red puddles on the ground. The air was damp and foul. "Big brother, why did you bring us here?" Zhao Kai forced a smile and spoke again, his voice trembling even more violently, his legs weak. An ominous premonition tightened around their hearts like a venomous snake. Lin Chen slowly turned, facing them directly. At this moment, Zhao Kai and Li Qiang finally saw his face clearly. Young, cold, and expressionless. But the chill in his eyes made them feel as if they had fallen into an ice cave, their blood nearly freezing. There was no answer. Without warning, Lin Chen suddenly attacked. His speed was beyond visual perception. The two felt an irresistible force strike them, their bodies instantly lifted into the air. "Ah! No!" Two short, piercing screams tore through the rain. Zhao Kai and Li Qiang, like broken sandbags, were hurled by Lin Chen, one in each hand, into the blood-soaked rain outside the door. Thump! Thump! They crashed heavily onto the wet, cold, blood-stained ground, mud and water splattering everywhere. Cough cough. The cold, sweet-smelling rainwater filled their mouths and noses, the fear of death gripping their every nerve. They struggled to crawl back to the dry eaves, letting out terrified howls. "Why? We don't know you. Big brother. Spare us. We can talk about any misunderstandings." However, Lin Chen was faster. Just before they touched the dry ground, Lin Chen took 2 steps forward, raised his leg, and kicked out with lightning speed. Crack! Crack! The teeth-grinding sounds of bones cracking rang out almost simultaneously. Zhao Kai and Li Qiang's right shin bones were mercilessly broken. The excruciating pain caused them to scream in human agony, unable to stand any longer. They could only collapse into the rain of blood, futilely digging at the ground with their hands and dragging their broken legs as they desperately crawled toward the eaves, leaving 2 shocking trails of blood behind them. Chapter 56. Feeling refreshed. The cold, bloody rain relentlessly soaked them. 5 minutes later, the changes began. Their skin turned an unnatural bluish-black, and the whites of their eyes were quickly filled with scarlet blood vessels, then became cloudy. Their bodies convulsed violently out of control, and their throats emitted inhuman, gasping sounds. The extreme pain, mixed with a tingling, burning sensation of the virus eroding their nerves, made them roll wildly on the ground, scratching their skin and leaving streaks of blood. Why? Zhao Kai used his last strength to raise his head, his eyes, now consumed by blood, staring intently at the indifferent figure under the eaves, uttering a soul-searching question, soaked with endless resentment and bitterness. His fingernails dug deeply into the cold, wet cement, tearing his skin. He didn't understand. He never understood, not even in death. Lin Chen stood quietly under the dry eaves, like an indifferent spectator, coldly watching this tragic scene in the rain. Before coming, he had imagined countless ways to torture the two, but after actually seeing them, he didn't want to get entangled with them any longer. It's like having a bed bug on your body. Your first thought is to get rid of it and kill it, not to play with it or have any interaction with it. 10 seconds later, the rolling and howling stopped. Two bodies stiffly, in an ergonomically unnatural position, slowly rose from the ground. Their skin was bluish-black, their eyes were cloudy and dull, drool dripped from their mouths, and they let out low growls from their throats, craving flesh and blood. They were no longer Zhao Kai and Li Kang. They were just two newly born, first-tier zombies. Driven by instinct, they roared and pounced towards the nearest, freshest source of flesh and blood, Lin Chen under the eaves. Lin Chen's eyes were calm as he watched these two familiar yet strangely ferocious faces rush towards him. He reached back and gripped the hilt of the tang sword on his back. Clang. A clear, resonant sound, like a dragon's roar, suddenly rang out. A bright, cold light, like lightning flashing across the night sky, disappeared in the dim, blood-rainy background. The blade grazed the necks of the two newly born zombies. Their pounce came to an abrupt halt. Two heads, their expressions still contorted in rage, detached from the body and rolled to the ground, splashing up murky water. The headless corpse swayed, then collapsed with a thud. Dark red, viscous blood gushed from the severed neck, quickly diluted by the rain. Clean and efficient. No unnecessary entanglement, no fierce fighting. For him now, dealing with two newly mutated, stiff-moving Tier 1 zombies was no different than crushing two insects. A swift movement, a swift stroke. The grudge was settled. As the tang sword returned to its sheath with a soft click, Lin Chen stood quietly, feeling the heavy, leaden resentment and hatred that had accumulated over 2 lifetimes within him, as if it had been completely severed, shattered, and dissipated with a wind by those two clean, swift strokes. There was no expected ecstasy, no emptiness after revenge, but rather an unprecedented tranquility and clarity. It was as if the mountain that had been weighing on his soul had been lifted, and the gloom that had shrouded his heart had been pierced by sunlight. His spirits lifted, his mind cleared, and his thoughts sharpened. He stood silently in the rain for a long time, letting the cool raindrops wet his face, savoring this first true sense of liberation since his rebirth. Then, he stepped forward and, as if handling ordinary zombie remains, stored the remains of Zhao Kai and Li Kang into the Hongmeng creation pearl space. The roots of the world tree would naturally transform them into nutrients to nourish the space. The grudges of the past life were now settled. Looking up at the increasingly gloomy sky, the blood rain seemed to have lessened a bit, but it was clearly still some time before it completely stopped. Lin Chen's mood became lighter than ever before, even tinged with a rare interest. He decided to sweep through the area all night. For other survivors, the night was a source of fear. Limited visibility, active zombies, and the unknown lurking in every shadow made it a time to avoid. But for him, with his current strength, the night was no longer an obstacle, but rather an advantage. Under the cover of darkness, his spatial movement became more concealed, and his movements more free. First-tier zombies, reliant on hearing and sight, posed no threat to him. And the fact that most survivors dared not venture out at night meant that many unexploited warehouses, shopping malls, and special locations were easier for him to access under the cover of darkness. A cold, confident smile curved his lips as Lin Chen's figure once again merged into the deepening night and the blood rain, speeding towards the deeper western part of the city, towards areas where high-value supplies might be found. After spending nearly 2 more hours emptying the large supply depot in the west of the city, in high spirits, he decided to set his sights on the true heart of Yangcheng, the city center. It had once been the pinnacle of modern civilization, with towering skyscrapers and bustling commercial streets. Precisely because of its extremely dense population, it was the first place to be hit by the blood rain, becoming the most devastated, the fastest to fall, and the most horrific hell on Earth. However, deep within crisis often lurks the greatest opportunity. As Lin Chen knew from his previous life, the source of their awakened superpowers, the four great S-rank powerhouses who later became renowned and powerful figures in Guangzhou, all pointed to this very place of initial death. In the early stages of the zombie outbreak, the city center was nearly deserted, with only a fraction of the population surviving. Those who survived such a desperate situation were either incredibly lucky or possessed extraordinary willpower. In a desperate situation where food and water were scarce and rescue seemed impossible, they were forced to use anything they could find and fight the omnipresent zombies to the death. It was in this extreme, life or death situation that someone accidentally discovered a peculiar crystal core, about the size of a little finger, would condense inside the skull of a zombie. Swallowing it would produce a faint but real warm current in the body, bringing a slight increase in strength or endurance. The initial effects were not obvious. Often, multiple cores needed to be swallowed consecutively to awaken even the lowest level F-rank superpower. Reaching the legendary S-rank required not only at least 10 crystal cores, but also extremely high levels of personal talent. To be able to continuously kill a sufficient number of zombies during that precarious period. And to persistently consume crystal cores while enduring unknown risks, those who could do this needed not only extraordinary courage, but also incredible luck and an indomitable will that would not be extinguished even in dire straits. Those four who later became S-rank were the chosen ones, emerging from mountains of corpses and seas of blood, possessing strength, luck, and resilience. As time passed, they embarked on vastly different paths. The first, a veteran, joined the remnants of the South City military region, awakened the S-rank thunder possession ability, and became a pillar of the military's top combat force in Yangcheng. The second awakened a rare S-rank ice-type ability. Under the subsequent extreme cold disaster, its power was unparalleled. His affiliated force was the official Yangcheng shelter controlled by the spoiled second young master's family, with whom Lin Chen had a blood feud in his previous life. The third, with a rebellious personality, awakened a bizarre S-rank shadow-type ability, established his own power base in the west of the city, and became one of the three top forces in the apocalypse. The fourth, the most mysterious. Speculation abounds regarding her ability. All that is known is that she is an exceptionally beautiful woman, elusive and solitary, rarely engaging with any other faction, seemingly outside the bounds of the law. It was these four S-rank powerhouses, along with a group of mid to low-level ability users awakened under their influence, who, after the bloodshed subsided, were able to organize an effective counterattack, rescuing many survivors from the dead zone of the city center and leading them out of the city. Chapter 57 Yangcheng Hospital. In his past life, Lin Chen's trio followed a typical lone wolf path. Leveraging his A-level Earth escaping ability, they consistently avoided large hordes of zombies, finding relatively safe routes and hidden supply depots that hadn't been looted, never truly worrying about survival resources. They also always kept their distance from recruitment offers from various powerful factions. Looking back now, Lin Chen's mind is clear. The one who truly resisted joining a large faction wasn't himself. He understood the importance of banding together in the apocalypse, but he disliked the internal strife within those factions and the behavior of certain high-ranking members. Zhao Kai and Li Qiang, on the other hand, repeatedly opposed joining any faction, citing the preciousness of freedom and unwillingness to be constrained. Now it seems they were probably worried that if Lin Chen joined a faction, his unique Earth ability would be highly valued, his status would rise rapidly, and he would leave them far behind. That underlying jealousy and imbalance was the true reason they insisted on the lone wolf path. Many details and subtleties of human nature that were obscured in his past life became clear after his rebirth, when he gained a godlike perspective and a more composed mindset. Gathering his thoughts, Lin Chen quickened his pace, steadily advancing towards the city center. He made the convenient stop at large shopping malls, chain stores, and specialty markets along the way, sweeping away any usable supplies. These resources had mostly been wasted in his previous life. In the early stages, humanity was unable to clear such densely packed zombie areas, and by the time major powers had taken shape and were able to organize a cleanup, much food had already rotted, and other supplies were severely damaged. Now, they were perfect for replenishing his treasure trove. Around 3 p.m., he arrived at Yangcheng People's Hospital. This top-tier hospital was one of Yangcheng's medical centers before the apocalypse, boasting a grand scale. Now, Its imposing outpatient building resembled a silent behemoth, many windows broken, and numerous zombies dressed in hospital gowns or medical uniforms roamed the plaza in front, stained with blood, a scene of deathly silence. Lin Chen's target was clear, the hospital pharmacy. The vast quantity of medicine stored there, from antibiotics and emergency medications to chronic disease drugs, anesthetics, and medical equipment, was of immense value in the apocalypse. Instead of forcing his way in through the main entrance, he used a rough assessment of the building's structure to teleport through a space, appearing in a relatively quiet internal corridor. Moving quickly, he soon found the pharmacy area. The pharmacy door was tightly shut, and at least 100 zombies were gathered outside the railing, frantically pounding on it. The railing was severely deformed and tittering, clearly not going to hold for long. Fortunately, the zombies couldn't climb, otherwise they would have already entered the pharmacy. Lin Chen flashed inside the pharmacy, and to his surprise, there were no zombies. In a corner further inside, behind the shelves and counters, a dozen or so figures were huddled together. All of them were women, wearing stained white coats and name tags. They huddled together, their faces still showing shock, but more than anything, extreme astonishment and bewilderment. Staring at Lin Chen, clearly unable to comprehend how this stranger had appeared out of nowhere. Although the female pharmacists were pale, they didn't exhibit the obvious hunger and lethargy of ordinary survivors, and their eyes were relatively clear. A glance at the empty glucose injection bottles scattered around them immediately revealed the truth. "Are you the doctors here?" Lin Chen broke the silence first, his voice calm and devoid of much emotion. After a brief silence, a woman of about 30, with a composed demeanor and wearing glasses, took a deep breath, stepped forward, and answered on behalf of the group, "We are pharmacists from the pharmacy. Are you part of the rescue team?" Her voice carried a glimmer of hope, but more so, wariness and uncertainty. "No." Lin Chen denied it directly and turned to begin his work. With a slight thought, boxes of medicine on the shelves began to disappear. This scene caused the female pharmacists in the corner to widen their eyes again, collectively falling silent. "Sister Yang, look, is what he's using spatial abilities?" The youngest female pharmacist, Su Jin, who was about 20, leaned close to the bespectacled Sister Yang's ear, her voice extremely low, yet unable to conceal her incredible excitement. Yang Na, whom she called Sister Yang, actually began to seriously consider the matter, whispering, it could also be a storage magic item. The two of them, at this critical moment of life and death, were quietly discussing the pros and cons and possibilities of supernatural abilities versus magical items. Several pharmacists nearby were also engrossed, temporarily forgetting the impending death outside. Supernatural forces that had once only existed in their fantasies were now playing out vividly before their eyes. It wasn't until Lin Chen cleared an area and walked towards the shelf storing glucose injections that Su Jin suddenly snapped back to reality. "Hey! He's even taking the glucose." That was their lifeline. "Sir?" Yang Na mustered her courage and raised her voice, her tone pleading, "Could you leave some glucose for us? We'll rely on that." They didn't dare stop Lin Chen from taking other medicines, only hoping to leave behind these life-sustaining liquids to hold out until possible rescue. Lin Chen stopped, turned around, and calmly swept his gaze across their expectant yet fearful faces. He didn't immediately agree. Instead, he pointed to the severely deformed guardrails outside the window, their frantic pounding piercing the railings. His voice was calm yet sharp as an ice pick. "How long do you think these railings can hold?" His words were like a bucket of ice water, instantly extinguishing the glimmer of hope that had just ignited in everyone's eyes. Everyone turned pale, their eyes dimming. Yes, they knew the extent of the railings twisting and the howling sounds so close to their ears. But who would give up until the very last moment? "Then, can you save us?" Su Jin asked timidly again, her voice barely a whisper, her cheeks flushed with nervousness. We're very useful. Sister Yang Na is a young expert in pharmacy, Sister Jin is particularly skilled in equipment management. We can all work, we won't just sit around doing nothing." She was afraid of offending this inhuman being. Didn't novels often say that powerful people have eccentric tempers and hate being asked for things? The others also cast pleading glances, like drowning people looking at the only piece of driftwood. Lin Chen nodded inwardly, even feeling a secret sense of control. In fact, he had his eye on this group of professional pharmacists from the very beginning. Although only Yang Na, Su Jin, and Jinmu Iao were reasonably attractive, the rest were all of average appearance, and some were even older. But medicine came first, and professionalism was invaluable. In the future, a reliable medical team would be no less strategically valuable than top-tier combat ability users. Chapter 58. You call this difficult? Having lived 2 lives and received guidance from his wife Su-yoon, he had come to understand many subtleties of human nature. If you were to take them in willingly, they might be grateful, but they would inevitably harbor doubts or feel they were being given charity, making them difficult to manage later. Only by letting them recognize their predicament and actively seek help, and then reluctantly agreeing with a reasonable exchange, could a stronger bond be formed, leading to a greater sense of belonging and cooperation. That's why he deliberately slowed down his collection speed, even showing off his special abilities in front of them. Otherwise, with his current mental strength, he could have emptied the entire pharmacy in an instant. Now, the time was right. He deliberately frowned, feigning difficulty, and paced a few steps in the pharmacy before sighing. To be honest, with my abilities, I might be able to lead 1 or 2 people on a risky breakout. But there are 15 of you, you're too large a target, making movement difficult. You know the number of zombies outside. This is beyond my capabilities. Besides, the situation outside, the authorities are probably already overwhelmed. The female pharmacist's heart sank again, some unable to hold back their sobs, despair washing over them like a tidal wave. Lin Chen observed their changing expressions while secretly focusing his attention, carefully capturing their subtle conversations and fluctuations in their auras. He desperately needed talent, but he could not tolerate anyone with malicious intent, selfishness, or the potential to stab him in the back. Fortunately, his initial assessment indicated that this group maintained basic empathy and professional ethics even in dire circumstances. Even if they occasionally harbored selfish fears, it was only human nature and not a sign of great evil. After a moment, Yang Na seemed to have made up her mind. She stepped forward, her eyes fixed firmly on Lin Chen. Sir, may I ask your name? Lin Chen. Mr. Lin. Yang Na took a deep breath, her voice trembling slightly but exceptionally clear. We've already discussed this. She glanced back at her sisters huddled together behind her. Each of them had tears in their eyes, yet they all nodded to her. Yang Na turned back to Lin Chen, bowing deeply and solemnly. Please, take Su Jin and Jin Muiao away. They're the youngest, they have a long road ahead of them. I beg you. Before she finished speaking, the other 14 people behind her, regardless of age, all bowed deeply to Lin Chen. Su Jin and Jin Muiao, whose names were called, were stunned at first, then tears streamed down their faces, and they covered their mouths, sobbing uncontrollably. These cries carried the weight of being entrusted with their lives, and were also filled with endless guilt and sorrow for leaving their companions behind. The cries seemed to stimulate the zombies outside the window, and the pounding on the railings became even more frantic. Lin Chen's heart jolted. In both his past and present lives, he had witnessed the ugliness of the apocalypse, where people would stop at nothing to survive, even betraying their closest relatives. He had expected that in such an absolute desperate situation, the most selfish side of humanity would be laid bare. He had anticipated arguments, buck passing, and even ugly fights over survival. But he never imagined he would witness such a scene, 15 people, facing life and death. After a brief discussion, unanimously decided to give their only chance of survival to the 2 youngest members of the group. This radiant humanity that shone even in the darkest hour, this collective sacrifice and selflessness that transcended individual survival instincts, was nothing short of a miracle in the chaotic cesspool of the apocalypse. It touched Lin Chen's long-frozen heart with a long-lost warmth and a profound sense of awe. He silently gazed at the 15 white-clad figures bowing deeply before him, at the 2 young girls weeping uncontrollably, and the howls of the zombies outside the window seemed to vanish suddenly. After a moment of silence, Lin Chen finally spoke again, his voice slightly gentler than before. Actually, I might have a way to get all of you out of here. But what? Mr. Lin, please tell us. We'll agree to any conditions. We'll cooperate fully. Yang Na suddenly looked up, her eyes bursting with unbelievable joy, her voice trembling with excitement. The others also instantly looked up, their tearful eyes filled with ecstasy and anticipation. If they could all survive without violating their conscience, who would be willing to die? Who would want to live alone burdened by the guilt of their fallen comrades? I'm willing to do anything. Su Jin blurted out, wiping away her tears, her cheeks flushed, then realized the ambiguity in her words and hurriedly lowered her head. Lin Chen coughed lightly, suppressing a hint of amusement. his expression returning to seriousness and composure. It's not particularly difficult. I need you to temporarily enter a completely safe, but perhaps somewhat special, enclosed space. There are no zombies there, and basic survival is guaranteed. Once the outside situation stabilizes, I will release you. In exchange, I hope you will join the post-apocalyptic base I plan to establish, utilizing your professional expertise to work for the base. In return, your lives and safety will be the responsibility of my base. You can only leave after the apocalypse ends. His gaze swept over each face, his tone clear and calm. You provide professional value, I provide survival guarantees and a platform for the future. Those who are willing, not now. If you have doubts, you can stay. I will provide enough glucose, but how long the protective barriers last is up to your own fate. The choice was now in their hands. The group exchanged glances, not expecting the conditions to sound so simple, even generous. Just to temporarily take refuge in a safe place and work for their benefactor in the future? This was far better than any potentially harsh demands they had anticipated. Sujin's face flushed even redder. She had been overthinking things. We agree. Yang Na agreed almost without hesitation, speaking on behalf of everyone, her tone resolute. Her authority and decisiveness within the team were on full display at this moment. Okay. Lin Chen nodded. Then, everyone hold hands and form a circle. Close your eyes, relax your whole body, calm your mind, and don't have any thoughts of resistance. Trust me. Everyone immediately did as instructed, quickly forming a circle. Lin Chen walked to the center, taking Sujin's slightly trembling hand in one hand and Yang Na's firm but cold hand in the other. With a thought, he connected with a primordial creation pearl. In an instant, the 16 figures in the corner of the pharmacy vanished without a trace, leaving only the empty shelves and the increasingly furious, bewildered roars of the zombies outside the window, inside the primordial creation pearl space, by the stream. A gentle breeze swept across the grass, carrying the unique, crisp scent of the space. You can open your eyes now. Lin Chen released her hand, his voice exceptionally gentle in the tranquil atmosphere. The 15 female pharmacists obeyed, slowly opening their eyes. Then, like Himijao who had been brought in earlier, they all froze, petrified. Blue sky, though the sun was not blazing, the light was bright and soft, white clouds, as pale as gauze, drifting leisurely, clear streams, boundless verdant meadows, the hazy outline of distant green mountains, the refreshing, pure air, no blood, no decay, no zombie howls, no suffocating despair. This is. Everyone covered their mouths, tears welling up again, but this time it was pure, overwhelming joy and shock. Jinmu Io knelt directly on the soft grass, grabbing a handful of green grass, feeling its real touch and vibrant life, sobbing uncontrollably. The others also embraced each other, weeping with overwhelming joy. They had truly survived. And they were brought to such a place, a paradise on earth, a fairyland. No more dying. No more tormenting themselves day and night. Some even cried out in their hearts, Mr. Lin, you call this making things difficult? Then please make things difficult for us more often in the future. We couldn't be happier to do this kind of difficulty. Chapter 59 Settling everyone in, Yang Na's request. Mr. Lin? Is that you? The RV door opened gently, and Himijao leaned out. She had changed into a clean tracksuit, her complexion noticeably improved, her cheeks glowing with a healthy rosy hue, though a lingering sleepiness remained in her eyes. Yes, how did you rest? Lin Chen asked with a smile. Himijao's gaze swept over the group of women in white coats behind Lin Chen, their expressions a mixture of bewilderment and delight, and she paused slightly. She quickly got out of the RV and bowed deeply to Lin Chen. Thank you, Mr. Lin. This place is wonderful. I slept very soundly, as if I've been reborn. You're welcome. Lin Chen nodded, then briefly introduced Himijao to the pharmacists. This is Himijao, a survivor who arrived here before you. With that, a thought crossed his mind. On the neatly trimmed grass, 5 RVs of various styles quietly appeared, standing side by side with Himijao's. Immediately afterward, piles of women's clothing, toiletries, and basic necessities appeared neatly beside the RVs. You can allocate your own living space in these RVs. He then pointed to the supplies he had just taken out. These are daily necessities. This place is absolutely safe, but don't stray far from this area for now, and definitely don't try to explore any further. After giving his instructions, Lin Chen said, "You can rest here for now, I have other matters to attend to." He then took out a large quantity of food and water. "Mr. Lin." Just as he was about to leave, Yang Na suddenly spoke up. Her face showed hesitation, but her eyes held a desperate urgency. "Is there anything else?" Lin Chen turned around. Yang Na's gaze was intense, and her speech quickened unconsciously. "Mr. Lin, I know this might be excessive, but since you have the ability to save us, could you please try to find other colleagues in the hospital? The inpatient department, the emergency room, and some operating rooms, there must still be doctors and nurses alive. Many of them are experts in their respective fields, with superb medical skills. If you establish a shelter in the future, they will definitely be a vital asset." She paused, her voice lowering, but becoming even more urgent. "Also, in the emergency room, there's a doctor named Li Xian. If it's convenient for you, could you check whether he's still alive?" At the end, her eyes were complex, a trace of unspeakable worry and some hidden emotion flashing across them. "Sister Yang, at a time like this, why are you still bothering with that scumbag?" Sujin couldn't help but interject, her tone indignant. "Xiao Jin." Jin Muiao quickly grabbed her sleeve, whispering a reminder, "Li Xian is, after all, Sister Yang's legal husband." Although she deliberately lowered her voice, it didn't escape Lin Chen's ears. "Husband? Scumbag?" Yang Na ignored Sujin and offered no explanation, only staring intently at Lin Chen, her eyes burning with a last glimmer of cautious expectation. Since witnessing Lin Chen's incredible abilities, some long-extinguished thoughts within her had been rekindled, burning more fiercely than ever before. Lin Chen gazed at Yang Na, remaining silent for a long time. The silence, like an invisible pressure, caused Yang Na, who had initially mustered the courage to make her request, to gradually blush, her eyes beginning to dart away, revealing a hint of unease and anxiety. Only when she could barely withstand the scrutinizing gaze did Lin Chen slowly speak, "Dr. Yang, I can try to save other doctors and nurses who might still be alive in the hospital. But you know, this is the apocalypse, resources are limited, and danger lurks everywhere. This place is not a charity shelter, nor is it a hospital from peacetime. I cannot, and will not, take everyone away. Only those with upright hearts, solid professional skills, and who, at least for now, are willing to accept and abide by my rules, will be saved. I cannot tolerate any potential traitors within the team who harbor ulterior motives and might betray us at a critical moment." He paused, his gaze sweeping over Yang Na's slightly trembling eyelashes, and continued, "I respect the medical profession of saving lives and understand your value. But Dr. Yang, you know better than I do, even the noblest profession has its shadows beneath the sunlight. I don't discriminate based on status, but I must screen. Because one maggot could destroy the entire hard-won safe environment." These cold and realistic words left Yang Na with mixed feelings. She took a deep breath, suppressing her turbulent emotions, and whispered repeatedly, "I understand. Mr. Lin, I understand." She knew better than anyone else. If it weren't for the fact that these medical workers still had some use, if it weren't for the precious glimmer of humanity they displayed in their desperate situation, this mysterious and powerful Mr. Lin probably wouldn't have even glanced at them, let alone bothered to save them. "I will search, and I will give them a chance." Lin Chen's voice turned cold, "but if anyone fails my test along the way, I will abandon them without hesitation. Even if that person is your former colleague, a longtime friend, or even a relative." His gaze fell on Yang Na's face again, emphasizing each word, "even yourself. If you harbor disloyalty, or cross my bottom line, don't blame me for being ruthless." The last two words fell lightly, yet carried 1,000 pounds. Yang Na's heart trembled violently, her voice trembling almost imperceptibly, "I understand. I won't." Lin Chen said no more, gave everyone a deep look, and then disappeared, returning to the pharmacy. Ignoring the zombies still pounding on the railings, he began traversing every corner of the hospital. His goal wasn't just to rescue people, but also to collect as many of the remaining valuable resources of this top-tier hospital as possible. The lab, radiology room, central pharmacy, equipment room, and even the still movable beds, wheelchairs, oxygen cylinders, and monitors in the inpatient wards, all were stored in his special storage. Whenever he encountered survivors, he would quietly approach, observe, and then reveal himself. He no longer directly stated his intentions, but instead subtly set up trials, resource competition, Disguised as a severely wounded escapee, he would accidentally enter the hiding place with a small amount of conspicuous food, observing whether people's first reaction was to grab, to be suspicious, or to prioritize the safety of others. Quota pressure, claiming his limited abilities meant he could only take half the people. He would coldly observe who would voluntarily give up their spot and who would secretly sabotage or exclude others. Professional bottom line, he would quietly place a weakened zombie in a confined space, observing whether the medical staff would instinctively protect the patients or only care about their own escape, even pushing others aside to avoid danger. Perhaps because the apocalypse has only recently begun, many people haven't yet revealed their true nature, and most medical staff have held on to their principles even in dire circumstances, allowing Lin Chen to acquire a considerable number of talented individuals. Those who pass the test, regardless of age or gender, will be rescued by Lin Chen and temporarily placed in the Creation Pearl space. Those who fail the test will essentially become Lin Chen's new source of zombie crystal cores. Chapter 60 Shenzhen. Yangcheng People's Hospital, a vital medical center in the core area, normally sees a massive influx of patients. On the day the blood rain descended without warning, it instantly transformed from a sanctuary of healing into a living hell. Patients seeking treatment, accompanying family members, and frantic medical staff, countless lives were lost in the confined space. By the third day of the apocalypse, of the hospital's original 4,000 employees, fewer than 400 remained alive, a mortality rate exceeding 90%. When Lin Chen arrived at the obstetrics and gynecology ward, he witnessed this scene. In a relatively intact examination room, a female doctor was desperately trying to save a pregnant woman. She was about 27 or 28 years old, with delicate features and a calm demeanor. Even with the constant roars of zombies outside and the terrifying sounds of them banging on the door, her movements remained steady and skilled, her eyes focused, showing no sign of panic. 5 nurses stood beside her, equally focused as her assistants, though each of their faces was itched with exhaustion and fear. Dr. Wu Ji, it's no use. She failed too hard while dodging the zombies, and the baby can't be saved. A nurse looked at the monitoring indicators, her voice trembling with tears. The mother is in danger too, massive bleeding. The building is full of zombies, we can't get any blood plasma. Another nurse looked at the blood-soaked sheets, her voice trembling. Use gauze rolls to hold her in place to prevent her tongue from biting. There's no other choice now, we have to do everything we can. Wu Ji gritted her teeth, her voice unusually calm. Stop the bleeding, maintain medication, CPR. The 6 of them used every means at their disposal. Time passed amidst suppressed sobs and the banging of the door outside. Finally, the curve on the monitor flattened into a cold, straight line. If we had blood plasma, we could definitely save her. A young nurse slumped to the ground, covering her face and sobbing softly. Exhausted, the 6 silently wiped the blood from their hands and slid down against the wall. Wu Ji silently picked up her nearly empty bottle of drinking water and handed it to the weeping nurse. Lin Chen, who had remained hidden to the side throughout, observed the female doctor named Wu Ji, a thought stirring in his mind, calm under pressure, responsible to the very last moment. She's a capable person. In the future, what if Xiaoya, Sister Yun, or any of the others become pregnant and encounter similar situations? A professional obstetrician is indispensable. She had to be saved. Of course, he readily admitted that Wu Ji's upright posture, beautiful appearance, and clean and efficient demeanor were also undeniable advantages. Immediately, Lin Chen appeared and, using his familiar methods, led a small team, who had persevered in their desperate situation, away from the abyss. Finally, Lin Chen arrived at the last stop of his journey, the emergency center. The lobby was stained with blood, teeming with zombies, and overturned and shattered resuscitation equipment and furniture, a scene of utter chaos. Lin Chen first collected all the uncontaminated supplies from the perimeter, then headed towards the last few closed resuscitation rooms and operating rooms deep within the emergency room. Most rooms were either empty or filled only with wandering zombies. Finally, his steps stopped before a tightly closed, heavy metal operating room door. There were no observation windows, but he could faintly hear suppressed voices and the soft clanging of metal instruments coming from inside. Locked from the inside? Lin Chen raised an eyebrow. Once locked from the inside, these kinds of doors were extremely difficult to force open from the outside, especially if he didn't want to alert any potential zombies. He didn't try to pick a lock or shout. The next second, his figure shifted slightly, and he activated spatial teleportation, passing through the heavy door and silently appearing inside the operating room. A strong smell of disinfectant mixed with a stench of blood hid him. The operating room was brightly lit, and about a dozen medical staff in surgical gowns or scrub suits, wearing masks and caps, were nervously gathered around the operating table in the center. Lying on the table was an elderly male patient, his face ashen and devoid of color, with an open wound on his chest. Although simply bandaged, the gauze was soaked with blood. His eyes were tightly closed, his breathing so faint that his chest barely rose and fell. A young female doctor stood beside the operating table, her gloved hands pressing firmly on another bleeding point on the patient's abdomen. Fine beads of sweat covered her forehead, sliding down her pale cheeks and soaking the edge of her mask. The hem and cuffs of her white coat were stained with dark red blood, making her look as if she had just been pulled from a pool of blood. But her eyes, visible outside the mask, were bright and resolute like cold stars, fixed on the faintly fluctuating waveform on the monitor with an almost obsessive focus. Lin Chen's sudden appearance was like a boulder thrown into stagnant water. Who? The female doctor reacted quickly, looking up sharply, her gaze shooting towards Lin Chen like lightning. Her voice was hoarse from exhaustion and tension, yet filled with an unassailable sharpness. Who are you? How did you get in? Her pressing motion did not loosen in the slightest, as if she were pressing her own life onto that fading lifeline. Before Lin Chen could respond, a male doctor in his 30s, wearing gold-rimmed glasses and with a meticulously styled hairstyle, stepped forward and stood between her and Lin Chen. His face was a mixture of tension, excitement, and a deliberately performed display of heroism and flattery. He spread his arms and shouted exaggeratedly, "Stop! Don't come any closer. Dr. Shen is doing her best to save the patient. If you dare to interfere, I, Li Ziyan, will be the first to fight you to the death." Lin Chen's gaze swept calmly across the room. Apart from this heroic Li Ziyan, all the other medical staff wore undisguised exhaustion, their eyes sunken, some even swaying slightly, their surgical gowns wrinkled and stained with blood and dust. Only Li Ziyan, though also wearing surgical gowns, appeared much cleaner, his hair perfectly styled, his gold-rimmed glasses gleaming, and he was full of energy. Clearly, he hadn't done much actual resuscitation work. He had probably spent most of his time directing or performing. Just then, an older doctor with graying hair knelt down beside the patient's head, quickly checked her breathing and carotid artery, then straightened up and shook his head heavily and helplessly at the female doctor kneeling on the ground pressing her chest. His voice was hoarse. "Ziyan, give up. Her heart has stopped, her pupils are dilated. She is gone. We really did our best." The old doctor's eyes were filled with grief and helplessness. "Dr. Shen, it's really hopeless. She's bled to death, it's a miracle she's held on this long." Another male doctor in his 40s, with a kind face, also stepped forward and gently advised, patting the young female doctor on the shoulder. However, the female doctor called Shen Ziyan seemed not to hear, or rather, refused to hear. Her knuckles were white from pressing too hard, and she trembled slightly, but she still didn't let go. Her eyes were stubbornly fixed on the electrocardiogram on the monitor, which had become a straight line, as if she wanted to see the rise and fall of that line again with her gaze. Seeing this, Li Ziyan, the man with gold-rimmed glasses, immediately stepped forward and squatted down next to Shen Ziyan. He put on an extremely distressed expression and deliberately softened his voice. "Ziyan, don't be like this. You haven't slept for 3 days and 3 nights. Your body will collapse if you continue like this. Please rest for a while, okay? Seeing you like this, my heart is broken." Deputy Section Chief Li Ziyan. Shen Ziyan finally reacted. She turned her head sharply, her eyes above the mask shooting out cold, undisguised disgust and anger. Her voice trembled slightly from suppressing her anger. "Please have some self-respect. We are just colleagues, and we are not close in private. Please call me Dr. Shen or Shen Ziyan. Don't call me so intimately. Now, please move aside and don't disturb me." Li Ziyan was reprimanded in public, and his face instantly turned red and white. He was extremely embarrassed and took 2 steps back awkwardly. A sinister and angry glint flashed quickly in his eyes, but it was quickly covered up by hypocritical concern. Chapter 61 Playing Tricks. Lin Chen understood immediately. This was likely Yang Na's husband. No more than 30 years old, and looking at his greasy demeanor, instead of organizing rescue efforts and comforting his colleagues in this life-or-death situation, he was only concerned with fawning over his beautiful female colleague and putting on a show of deep affection, clearly a playboy who relied on connections to get by. His usual focus was entirely on scheming and women. Even in the apocalypse, he remained like this, truly disgusting. You haven't answered my question yet. Shen Ziyun ignored Li Ziyan, her gaze refocusing on Lin Chen, her vigilance undiminished, but perhaps because the patient had finally left, her voice betrayed a hint of undisguised weariness. Who are you? What is your purpose? Lin Chen didn't answer directly, instead turning his gaze to Li Ziyan, whose complexion had just returned to normal. A seemingly amiable but actually cold smile appeared on his face. He calmly took out his phone from his pocket and, under the puzzled gazes of the crowd, asked Li Ziyan in a flat tone, Li Ziyan, right? Do you know? Yang Na? Yang Na? Li Ziyan was taken aback at first, then his eyes lit up, his face instantly filled with surprise, as if he had grasped a lifeline. I know her. Of course I know her. She's my wife. You know her? How is she? Did she send you to find me? He had no doubt that this mysterious powerhouse who could appear out of nowhere had some deep connection with his ordinary pharmacist wife, but at this moment, any connection to the outside world, to the possibility of survival, was enough to fill him with ecstasy. I know her. She's safe for now. Lin Chen's tone remained calm, revealing no emotion. She asked me to come over here if possible, and take you out. Also, to help our colleagues who are ethically upright and technically skilled. Really? That's wonderful. Li Ziyan almost jumped for joy, his face beaming with the elation of surviving a disaster, and a smug sense of pride that my wife still cares about me. He automatically filled in the blanks. This powerful figure must be someone Yang Na had somehow managed to cultivate a relationship with. Perhaps she had paid some price for this promise of rescue. This further proved his importance. His mind immediately started working. This was the perfect opportunity to manipulate everyone present, especially Shen Ziyun. Perhaps he could even use this to establish his authority and gain the powerful figure's favor. He immediately turned to face the remaining 11 medical staff members, each with a different expression. He straightened his back, cleared his throat, and raised his voice in a deliberately elevated tone, tinged with official jargon and superiority. Did everyone hear that? This Mr. Lin. Mr. Lin was entrusted by my family to come and save me. He has the ability to get us out of this hellhole. He paused deliberately, his gaze sweeping over Shen Ziyun's cold face, then around the crowd, emphasizing his words. However, Mr. Lin also said that saving lives is possible, but there is a condition. One must be a person of high medical ethics, excellent skills, and someone who knows how to respect leaders and obey orders. He deliberately emphasized the words respect leaders, his gaze sweeping meaningfully over several doctors who were not particularly respectful to him. Finally forcing a smile that he thought was friendly and subtly ingratiating towards Lin Chen. Mr. Lin, right? I haven't asked your full name yet? Lin Chen. Lin Chen gave his name, his face still expressionless, but inwardly he was already sneering. Good. Everyone heard that. Mr. Lin Chen said it himself. Li Ziyan, as if granted a royal decree, became even more smug. He put his hands on his hips, looked around at everyone, and spoke with a tone of condescension and pressure. The conditions are right here. Whether you can leave or not depends entirely on your performance. You know what to do, right? Before he finished speaking, two people immediately swarmed around Li Ziyan like flies to a fish. One was the kind-looking middle-aged male doctor who had previously advised Shen Ziyun to give up. Now, his face was full of fawning smiles. Section Chief Li. It's me, Lao Wang. I've always been loyal to you. I follow you closely every time you make your rounds. I always carry out your instructions without fail. The other was a charming female doctor in her 40s who also swayed her hips and leaned in, her voice coquettish. Yes, Section Chief Li, you have to take me with you. Every time I see you come to the office, I make tea in advance and wipe the table clean. I'm the most respectful leader. The remaining 9 people looked at each other, their expressions complicated. Some eyes darted in struggle, some flashed with resentment, and some were utterly numb. But in the end, no one else stepped forward. Shen Ziyun and the old doctor remained motionless, their eyes cold, a hint of mockery even playing on their lips. Lin Chen's sneer deepened. In this apocalyptic world, where life and death hung in the balance, a mere empty phrase like respect for leadership could buy survival. Of the 11 people, 9 preferred to stand still rather than bow to such a despicable person. This clearly showed how unpopular this deputy section chief Li was. Moreover, Lin Chen had noticed from the moment he entered that, Apart from Li Ziyan, Old Wang, and Sister Zhang, the other 9 were all exhausted, their eyes bloodshot, and covered in blood, clearly the main force in the recent battle to save the wounded. In contrast, Li Ziyan and the other 2 were clean and tidy, almost like an anomaly. Lin Chen was too lazy to play along with this ugly performance any longer. He moved. Without a dramatic display, he simply took a step forward. Smack! A resounding slap echoed like a thunderclap. Li Ziyan didn't even see the movement clearly, he only felt a tremendous force strike his face. Stars flashed before his eyes, his ears rang, and he screamed as he flew backward, crashing heavily onto the equipment cart behind him with a bang, scattering metal tools everywhere. Before he could struggle to his feet, Lin Chen appeared beside him like a ghost, raised his foot, and stomped heavily on his chest. Ugh! Li Ziyan felt as if a boulder was pressing on his chest, his ribs groaned. The excruciating pain and suffocation made his face turn purple. His hands futilely clawed at Lin Chen's military boots, but he couldn't budge them an inch. This sudden turn of events left Old Wang and Sister Zhang dumbfounded, frozen in place. Their fawning smiles vanished, replaced by extreme terror and bewilderment. Mr. Lin? You did this? Old Wang stammered. Sister Zhang's legs went weak, and she almost collapsed. Lin Chen slowly turned his head. His gaze sweeping indifferently over them, past the 9 astonished medical staff, and finally settling on Li Ziyan's face, who lay slumped like a dead dog at his feet. His voice was calm and unwavering. What I said was, high medical ethics, excellent skills. He paused, his tone laced with undisguised sarcasm. When did I ever say respect for leaders? Especially, this kind of leader? Old Wang and Sister Zhang were struck dumb, their faces ashen. Lin Chen ignored them, turning to the 9 medical staff who had remained steadfast throughout. His tone returned to its usual calmness, yet carried an undeniable decisiveness. I can take you away, to a temporarily safe place. The 9 were stunned at first, then their faces erupted in unbelievable elation. A chance for survival. However, Lin Chen's voice turned cold, like a biting winter wind. There are conditions. First, you must serve the shelter I establish in the future. Second, and most importantly, loyalty. No betrayal, no double-dealing. Otherwise. He didn't finish, but the icy killing intent that flashed in his eyes said it all. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62 Open the door, release the zombies. Shen Ziyan, still cautiously scrutinizing Lin Chen, asked, Mr. Lin, what exactly do we need to do? Or rather, what do you need us to do? Her direct question showed she wasn't blindly optimistic. What do we need? Lin Chen smiled slightly, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. We'll continue your old profession, treating the sick and saving lives. Other than that, you're not good at it, are you? He abruptly changed his tone, his voice suddenly turning icy. However, let me make this clear, in my territory, don't act like a saint. Save those who deserve it, for those who shouldn't be saved, or those you can't save, learn to let go. Resources are limited, prioritize your own people and those of value. In the apocalypse, rampant compassion often kills not only yourself but also those around you. And I always kill the saints first. Shen Ziyan looked at Lin Chen's young face, yet etched with vicissitudes and decisiveness, and at his seemingly smiling yet subtly sharp eyes, a chill ran through her. She knew this was no joke. Silence. Only Li Ziyan's painful groans and Old Wang and Sister Zhang's suppressed sobs filled the operating room. After a long silence, Shen Ziyan took a deep breath, as if making a momentous decision, and slowly nodded, her voice clear and firm. Okay. I agree. I will serve your sanctuary with my medical skills and abide by your rules. But the premise is, not to violate my basic conscience and bottom line as a doctor. Lin Chen looked at her deeply and nodded. Okay. I'm willing to, the old doctor replied in a trembling voice. I agree too, the young male doctor declared excitedly. The others nodded in unison, their eyes fervent. Seeing that Shen Ziyan and the others had agreed, the others had no more reservations and readily agreed as well. Then, hold hands and form a circle. Close your eyes, relax your whole body, calm your mind, and do not harbor any thoughts of resistance, Lin Chen instructed. Everyone immediately did as instructed. Lin Chen walked to the center, took Shen Ziyuan's cold but steady hand in one hand, and casually grabbed a nervous nurse next to him with the other. He communicated with a primordial creation pearl in his mind. The next second, Lin Chen, Shen Ziyuan, and the other 10 people in the operating room vanished without a trace. Within the primordial creation pearl space, beside the stream, the familiar crisp air and tranquil scene once again unfolded before the newcomers. In the distance, the more than 200 medical personnel who had been rescued earlier were familiarizing themselves with their surroundings under the guidance of He Mijio and others. Upon seeing another group of familiar colleagues being teleported in, many were initially stunned, then erupted in cheers and tears, rushing forward to recognize and embrace each other. Dr. Shen. It's Dr. Shen. Director Wang. You're alive. Xiao Liu. That's wonderful. The elation of surviving a catastrophe and the excitement of reuniting with old friends instantly filled the quiet space with life and tears. The 9 newcomers, witnessing so many familiar faces unharmed, felt their last trace of doubt vanish, their tense nerves completely relaxed, and they couldn't help but embrace their old acquaintances and weep. Finally, they really didn't have to die. And so many companions. Lin Chen didn't disturb them, silently leading Yang Na aside. Lin Chen didn't speak, but simply turned his phone screen towards her, playing a clip he had secretly recorded of the operating room, Li Ziyuan's obsequious face, his shameful public flattery, his arrogant bullying of colleagues, his pathetic state after being kicked to the ground. Yang Na watched the entire video silently, without uttering a sound. Only her body trembled slightly, her fingers gripping the edge of the phone so tightly that her knuckles turned white. The video ended, the screen went dark, revealing her pale but serene face. She slowly closed her eyes. 2 lines of clear tears finally slid silently down her cheeks. There was no hysteria, no angry curses. Only a chilling coldness after utter heartbreak, and a sense of relief as if the dust had settled. In the face of the apocalypse, on the brink of life and death, her husband, instead of showing any responsibility or change, displayed his usual despicable and hypocritical nature to the fullest extent in this desperate situation. That last vestige of hope, perhaps one she herself was unwilling to acknowledge, was utterly severed and crushed by the cruel scene before her eyes. Thank you, Mr. Lin. This scumbag truly doesn't deserve your help, Yang Na said sincerely. Lin Chen retrieved his phone, remaining silent. Some wounds must heal alone, some relationships are better dead than alive. He turned, retrieved a large number of tents and RVs, and began arranging temporary accommodations for the newcomers, distributing supplies, and briefly explaining the rules of the space. With everything arranged, he made a slight decision and left again. He returned once more to that operating room filled with despair and bloodshed. On the ground, Li Ziyuan was still groaning and cursing in pain. Old Wang and Sister Zhang, like ants on a hot pan, rushed towards Lin Chen as if he were their last hope, pleading with tears streaming down their faces, Mr. Lin. Master Lin. We know we were wrong. We really know we were wrong. Please take us away. We'll definitely change. We'll definitely obey. Yes, yes. We'll never dare to do it again. Section Chief Li, he deserved it. We're not on his side. Lin Chen's eyes were indifferent, as if he were looking at filth. He didn't even bother to utter another word. He walked straight to the tightly closed metal door of the operating room. This door was locked from the inside and had been the last barrier for Shen Ziyuan and the others against the zombies outside. Lin Chen reached out and grasped the cold, heavy doorknob. Not to unlock it, but to violently destroy it. Boom. A loud bang. A kick containing terrifying power slammed into the door lock. The sturdy metal door panel and frame twisted and dented inward, and the latch mechanism instantly shattered and flew apart. The door was kicked open. In the corridor outside, the horde of zombies, already frenzied by the sounds of voices and blood, surged in like a raging flood, roaring and pushing. No. Old Wang and Sister Zhang screamed in utter agony. Li Ziyuan struggled to his head, seeing the horde of hideous faces rushing towards him. His eyes filled with boundless fear and resentment, he cursed at the top of his lungs, Lin Chen. I'll curse your ancestors. I'll haunt you even as a ghost. Yang Na. You bitch. You conspired with outsiders to harm me. Lin Chen ignored the screams and curses behind him. Just as the horde was about to reach him, he swayed slightly, vanishing from his spot and reappearing dozens of meters away at the other end of the corridor outside the operating room, easily escaping the zombie horde. Inside the operating room, the zombies instantly engulfed the room. Desperate wails, the sounds of chewing, and the cracking of bones, intertwined into a brief, hellish symphony, gradually fading until only the low growls of zombies and the rustling of flesh being torn remained. Lin Chen stood at the end of the dimly lit corridor, expressionless, listening intently to the sounds behind him until all was silent. He turned, giving one last glance at the operating room, now a blood-soaked dining room, his eyes utterly indifferent. Cleanup complete. Time for the next location. The city center held even more resources, awaiting his exploration. Chapter 63 Guangzhou Deep Water Port. Lin Chen left Yangcheng People's Hospital at 7 p.m. He had spent a full 4 hours screening and testing the medical staff. But the gains were enormous. This medical team of over 200 people would become a crucial force in his future money-making schemes, and would be key to maintaining population health, improving quality of life, and even ensuring the team's combat effectiveness. The long-term returns on this investment were immeasurable. He determined his direction, his figure disappearing into the deepening night, continuing to scavenge for supplies in the city center. After finishing, he headed south, heading towards the most important part of his trip, Yangcheng's largest economic lifeline and the throat of its supply chain, the deep water port. In his plan, once the mountains of containers and the massive ships docked in the port were cleared, along with the resources he had previously collected from the city's major supply nodes, the public supply reserves that the remaining survivors of Yangcheng could rely on would be instantly drained by more than half. Add to that a massive amount of supplies smuggled from the United States and Japan. At that time, the survivors would face a stark reality. Want to survive? Sure. Want food and clean water? Sure. But the prices, zombie crystal cores. He will establish a simple exchange system using zombie crystal cores as currency. Want food, clean water, medicine, or even a relatively safe place to live? Either hunt zombies and exchange them for crystal cores, or demonstrate your skills and value and work for him. Thinking back to his previous life, in peacetime, he was like countless ordinary people, swept up in the torrent of 996 and 007 work schedules, squeezed to the bone by invisible capitalist rules. Countless people were exhausted from paying mortgages, car loans, children's education, and parents' medical care. Lin Chen's smile became complicated, and he couldn't help but chuckle softly. How the wheel of fortune turns. Now, in this post-apocalyptic world where order has collapsed and strength reigns supreme, he, Lin Chen, with the help of the Reborn Prophet and the primordial creation Pearl, is rapidly climbing towards becoming the strongest resource controller in the post-apocalyptic world. Holding resources, setting rules, selecting talent, and manipulating others, this logic is essentially similar to the capital operations of peacetime, only more blatant, more direct, and more efficient. As for whether anyone might object and attempt to unite to seize his resources? Lin Chen felt no ripples in his heart, even wanting to laugh. He possessed a primordial creation pearl, containing enough creation crystals to guarantee the awakening of A-level abilities, as well as life crystals that could elevate life levels and aid breakthroughs. As long as he had enough zombie crystal cores, he could mass-produce a legion of ability users loyal to him. And starting at A-level, S-level was not out of the question, with an awakening success rate of nearly 100%. What did this mean? It meant that as long as he was willing and had enough raw materials, he could create a terrifying force in a short time, composed entirely of ability users, with an average level far exceeding the current post-apocalyptic standards. Let alone the scattered, struggling small forces in Yangcheng. Even if all the survivors in the city united, they would be nothing more than chickens and dogs. Utterly vulnerable, before a superhuman legion he had personally created and was absolutely loyal to. More zombie cores meant he could create more and stronger superhumans faster, a stronger legion meant more efficient and safer extermination and collection, more cores, in turn, could accelerate the evolution of the primordial creation pearl itself, unlocking more profound functions and producing more spirit crystals. It was a perfect, snowballing positive cycle. Thinking of this, Lin Chen felt light all over, the fatigue of the past few days seemingly swept away, and he moved with the speed of the wind. As he hurried through the streets shrouded in night and sparsely populated by zombies, he unconsciously hummed a long-forgotten, era-defining old song in a voice only he could hear. Gently awaken the sleeping soul, slowly open your eyes, look at the busy world, is it still spinning alone? Yangcheng Deep Water Port, Container Terminal Area. The silence here was almost eerie. Thanks to highly automated loading and unloading equipment and intelligent management systems, even in peacetime, the number of workers directly engaged in manual labor at this modern dock, stretching for several kilometers, was relatively limited. On the day the blood rain broke out, most staff were in control rooms, offices, or relatively enclosed mechanical cabins, and the number directly exposed to the rain was far lower than in the city center and residential areas. Therefore, the number of zombies roaming the dock was practically sparse compared to the horrific, shoulder-to-shoulder crowds in the city. Looking around, only a few dozen zombies dressed in port work clothes or security uniforms wandered aimlessly among the mountains of container yards, their figures elongated under the pale dock lights, resembling drifting ghosts. Lin Chen's figure was like a black lightning bolt blending into the night, swiftly traversing this cold and orderly forest constructed of steel containers. Collect. 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 One by one, the containers vanished into thin air the instant his thoughts swept over them. Inside were soybeans, corn, and wheat from the Americas, high-quality iron ore and coal from Australia, natural rubber, palm oil, and tropical timber from Southeast Asia, precision instruments, high-end auto parts, and luxury goods from Europe. Of course, there were also large quantities of made-in-China goods ready for export, entire ships and containers still unopened, containing new energy vehicles, industrial drones, high-end machine tools, core robot components, consumer electronics, and textiles. He didn't even overlook those 10,000-ton ocean-going freighters moored at their berths, like steel islands. He swiftly ascended the gangway, confirming the bridge and engine room were empty, then took them, along with their full loads of cargo, mostly grains, ores, and other bulk commodities, into his inventory. Several medium-sized freighters and container ships met the same fate. In this round of sweeping, he seized at least tens of millions of tons of diverse goods from all over the world. Although many of these were raw materials, semi-finished products, or precision components requiring specialized assembly and debugging, and could not be used directly for the time being, Lin Chen firmly believed that with the passage of time and the gathering of talent at the base, these things would eventually be transformed into tangible productivity, combat effectiveness, and even a better quality of life. He was unaware that, on the third floor of the port office building, in a monitoring room marked Intelligent Dispatch Center, a pair of beautiful and sharp eyes were fixed intently on dozens of segmented monitoring screens. The pupils contracted and dilated sharply at the scene displayed on the screens, filled with utter shock and disbelief. In the images captured by the high-definition cameras, on the storage yard, heavy containers disappeared without warning, in large swaths, as if wiped away by an invisible giant hand. Beside the berths, several massive ships, like city landmarks, faded and disappeared like a mirage after a blurry distortion of light and shadow, leaving only empty water and ripples in their place. This completely transcended common sense of physics and could not be explained by any known technology. This is alien technology? Or the descent of a god? Space folding? A storage artifact? The woman in front of the monitoring console murmured to herself, her voice hoarse and trembling slightly from shock. Her slender fingers gripped the hem of her business suit tightly, her heart pounding like a drum, almost bursting out of her chest. Cold sweat had already silently soaked her back. Chapter 64 IT Girl, Liang Siki. In the early hours of the morning, Lin Chen cleared a dock and headed towards the still-lit port office building. Since he was here, he wanted to finish perfectly. He needed to see if there were any people or things worth noticing hidden inside. Locking onto the main entrance, he moved swiftly, quickly passing the horde of zombies and the closed glass doors, appearing directly in the lobby. Lin Chen was immediately drawn to the sounds of fighting nearby. A burly man, over 1.9 meters tall, with bulging muscles, wearing a port security uniform, was wielding a heavy baseball bat, locked in combat with a zombie. His movements were steady, his attacks ruthless. He was clearly trained. Several other young men, also dressed in security or work uniforms, were nearby, armed with makeshift weapons like fire axes and steel pipes, providing tense support and cover. Several onlookers stood by, and one of them, a middle-aged man who appeared to be a leader, urged impatiently, "Zhang Cheng, aren't you a top soldier? Hurry up and kill him. This is the last zombie." The other 100 or so survivors in the hall were all watching from a distance, and none of them noticed Lin Chen's sudden appearance. Lin Chen didn't hesitate, nor did he even approach. He raised his hand, and a crisp gunshot echoed through the hall. The bullet accurately struck the zombie between the eyebrows, halting its forward lunge and causing it to collapse to the ground. Only then did everyone realize the sudden appearance of Lin Chen. Zhang Cheng whirled around, his eyes sharp as an eagle, instantly locking onto the gun-wielding Lin Chen. He quickly scanned Lin Chen, no military uniform or police insignia, wearing a black combat suit, and holding an M4A1. His demeanor was cold and aloof, his eyes terrifyingly calm. He was no ordinary person. "Thanks." Zhang Cheng walked towards Lin Chen first, put away his stun gun, clasped his hands in a fist salute, and asked cautiously, "What's your name?" Lin Chen didn't answer, his gaze falling on the several zombie corpses beside him, already dead with their skulls broken. The crystal cores had been taken. He understood. The secret had indeed been leaked. On the third day of the apocalypse, the first group of people who dared to try and continuously consume crystal cores could no longer hide it. The network hadn't been interrupted yet, and the news had probably already spread. "You guys have eaten the crystal cores?" Lin Chen asked directly, his gaze sweeping over the burly man and the young men behind him. "That's right." The burly man nodded frankly. "The zombies outside are getting harder and harder to deal with. We have to fight. We found this stuff was useful, so we tried it." "How many did you eat?" "My comrades and I each ate 10. The burly man pointed to himself and the 5 or 6 young men behind him. "We distributed the extra crystal cores to other colleagues, hoping to improve our physique and increase our chances of survival." Lin Chen sighed inwardly upon hearing this. 10 crystal cores hadn't awakened his talent, which basically meant he didn't possess the ability to awaken his talent. That little bit of physical enhancement was a drop in the ocean. However, 2 of the young people did have energy fluctuations, seemingly awakened, but the intensity of the fluctuations probably didn't exceed D level. Even when they themselves were struggling to survive, these veterans still shared the crystal cores that might bring power with the weak. This kind of mentality was quite rare in the early days of the apocalypse, truly befitting their military background. "If you have nowhere to go in the future, or if you can't hold this place anymore," Lin Chen said calmly, his tone slightly softening, "you can come to the east of the city, near the university town, to find me in the Xianshu Garden Villa area. I will build a shelter there." He paused. "By the way, my name is Lin Chen. You can give me my name when you come." After speaking, he turned and walked deeper into the building. "Wait a minute." A clear female voice rang out, trembling but trying to remain calm. The crowd parted to make way. A woman walked out slowly. About 25 or 26 years old, with short hair to her ears, and bright, intelligent eyes behind frameless glasses. Her dark gray office lady suit remained neat even in the apocalypse, outlining her slender figure. Her features were delicate, her demeanor capable yet scholarly. Lin Chen paused slightly. It was the woman in the monitoring room who had stared in disbelief, almost as if she were dreaming. Lin Chen, however, was unaware that he had been exposed. "Mr. Lin," the woman took a deep breath, her voice trembling slightly but focused, "you just said, you live in Xianshu Garden near the university city in the east of the city?" Lin Chen raised an eyebrow, neither confirming nor denying. "I live there too. The Shuxiangin residential area next door." The woman spoke quickly, her voice urgent. "My parents are still at home, they're old and in poor health." Lin Chen turned, a half-smile playing on his lips, asking for help. "And you don't even give your name?" The woman blushed. "I'm sorry. My name is Liang Siki. I have to go back. Please, take me back with you." Lin Chen sized her up. Intelligent, calm, observant, and knowing how to seize opportunities. Liang Siki's heart pounded. She had witnessed a miraculous collection process in the monitoring room. She knew better than anyone that the man before her possessed unfathomable strength. Why not go with him? Lin Chen pointed to Zhang Cheng's team. "Isn't it safer to stick together with my colleagues and these veterans, than to rely on me, a stranger, to venture into the city alone?" Liang Siki bit her lip. "Mr. Lin, I work for Smart Harbor Technology, not a port employee. Before the bloodbath broke out, the port system malfunctioned, and I came here for after-sales service, but I got stuck here. I have to go back. Please, take me back with you. My parents are really old and in poor health. Every day we delay, they face more danger. I can't wait." Her voice was lower, but more determined. "I know this is presumptuous and dangerous, but I have no other choice." Lin Chen was silent. Of course, he could take her, without lifting a finger. But he wasn't a saint. "I'm sorry," he said calmly, We are complete strangers, and I have other things to do. It's not on my way. Liang Siki's heart sank. Complete strangers, he wasn't willing to help her for nothing, he was waiting for her to name her terms. What could she offer in exchange? Food and clean water? He clearly didn't lack those. Her beauty? She wasn't willing to lower herself for that. Technology. A thought flashed through her mind. She looked up abruptly, her gaze no longer evasive, but unusually firm. Mr. Lin, I am one of the core development engineers of the port's intelligent scheduling and automated control system. This system covers real-time monitoring of the entire port area, remote equipment control, logistics optimization, and security linkage. You just mentioned wanting to establish a shelter. I can offer you, first, develop and modify an automated monitoring and security system suitable for the base, integrating night vision, thermal imaging, and motion sensing to achieve unmanned early warning. Second, if the base has automated equipment such as patrol robots, defensive weapon stations, or even production lines, I can program and integrate them, making them obey your commands, saving manpower and improving safety efficiency. Third, she lowered her voice, my expertise involves low-level system permissions and network protocols. With your permission, I can attempt to penetrate or take over the electronic systems of designated targets. Lin Chen stopped completely. He slowly turned around, and for the first time, his gaze towards Liang Siki revealed a clear, undisguised appreciation. He had been testing her. Unexpectedly, he had gained such a valuable asset. Automated monitoring, equipment integration, hacking skills? This was simply the perfect talent for a post-apocalyptic base. Not bad. Lin Chen nodded, his tone calm yet subtly different. However, he paused, his gaze lingering for a moment on Liang Siki's beautiful face and slender figure before uttering a request that instantly widened her eyes and flushed her cheeks. Add one more condition, be my woman. If you agree, come over now. I promise you'll be home to see your parents before dawn. In this apocalyptic world, resources, talent, beauty, he wants it all. Especially a woman like this, talented, intelligent, beautiful, and capable of remaining calm in crucial moments. He wouldn't pretend to be aloof and let her go. Chapter 65 Liang Siki's Supernatural Abilities. Liang Siki hadn't expected Lin Chen to be so direct and domineering. This far exceeded all her negotiation expectations. Shame, indignation, and the humiliation of being objectified surged into her heart. But, thinking of her elderly and ailing parents at home, who had her late in life and doted on her. Now that the apocalypse had arrived, how desperate must they be, with no one to care for them? Should she cling to her pitiful pride and principles, watching helplessly as her parents might perish? Or should she grasp at this only powerful lifeline? Time froze. Everyone in the hall held their breath, the burly man and the others looking at each other with complex expressions, no one speaking. The middle-aged leader, who had been hiding in the crowd for a long time, wanted to say something but held back. He actually wanted to use his previous identity to lead this group of survivors, and Liang Siki was someone he had long coveted. But reason told him that Lin Chen had a gun. And he had managed to get here amidst the bloodshed, clearly powerful. He didn't want to take any risks for a woman. A long silence followed. Liang Siki looked up, her eyes slightly red, the chaos fading from them, replaced by a resolute, almost tragic calm. Looking into Lin Chen's deep, unwavering eyes, she nodded heavily and clearly, her voice soft but cutting off all retreat. Okay. I promise you. For her parents, she was willing to pay any price, including herself. Very good. Lin Chen smiled, seemingly satisfied. He didn't waste any more words, taking a step forward and naturally reaching out to embrace Liang Siki's slender yet stiff waist. Liang Siki trembled slightly, not resisting, obediently leaning towards him. The next moment, Lin Chen's mind stirred. Under the stunned gazes of Zhang Cheng and the others, Lin Chen and Liang Siki's figures completely vanished from the spot. Vanished. Brother Zhang. They're gone. It's a superpower. Spatial teleportation. Holy crap. That's so cool, the young man shouted excitedly. Zhang Cheng and his comrades were also filled with shock, exchanging bewildered glances. They didn't see how Lin Chen arrived, but they watched him, with a living person in tow, simply leave into thin air. So, he really isn't an ordinary person, Zhang Cheng murmured, gazing at the spot where Lin Chen disappeared, his eyes filled with complex emotions, shock, envy, and a hint of uncertainty about the future. But more than anything, he deeply etched the names Lin Chen and Xianshu Garden into his heart. Perhaps that really would be a place. Lin Chen appeared in the underground parking lot of the port office building with Liang Siki. This time, Lin Chen didn't simply take Liang Siki into his special storage as he had done with Himi Jiao or the hospital staff. With a thought, a heavily armored, all-black, specially modified off-road vehicle appeared out of thin air. He opened the car door, gesturing for Liang Siki to get in, and then sat in the driver's seat himself. The engine roared with a deep, powerful roar as it sped off, headlights piercing the thick night, slowly driving onto the deserted streets. A rare sense of relief washed over him. Since his rebirth, he hadn't had a proper rest. He had been busy collecting supplies. He drove straight towards the east of the city. On the way, occasionally zombies attracted by the engine sound would be rammed and run over by the SUV. A blocked car? He locked onto the vehicle with his mind, stored it in his special storage, and the whole process was smooth and seamless. To his slight surprise, Liang Siki, sitting in the passenger seat, showed no surprise or fear on her face from beginning to end, despite the extraordinary phenomena of retrieving a car from thin air and taking things out of thin air. She just gripped the seatbelt tightly, her gaze sometimes anxiously looking at the dark streets outside the window, sometimes worriedly looking at the remaining distance on the navigation screen, her brows slightly furrowed and her lips pursed. Lin Chen found it a little strange. Ordinary people would have reacted differently upon seeing such a method, even if they didn't exclaim in surprise. But then he thought, perhaps she was completely preoccupied with worry about her parents and had no time to think about anything else, or perhaps she was just unusually calm and rational, with a strong ability to accept things. He shook his head and didn't delve into it further. By this time, it was already past midnight. His consciousness sank into the primordial creation pearl, collecting the 100 newly refreshed creation spirit crystals. His total number of creation spirit crystals now reached 364. He had previously contacted Li and Su Yun. Their two teams had been operating smoothly, successfully clearing the zombies from the important areas of Yangcheng Normal University and Yangcheng Medical College. They had also recruited a new batch of qualified members, further expanding their ranks. Thinking of this, he glanced at Liang Siki, who remained tense and frowning in the passenger seat. He suddenly broke the silence in the car, his voice calm. "Do you want to awaken your abilities?" Liang Siki was startled, as if pulled back to reality from her chaotic thoughts. She turned to look at him blankly, her eyes full of doubt. Before she could ask, Lin Chen continued, "Did you eat any zombie crystal cores at the port?" "No," Liang Siki answered truthfully, shaking her head. "Their leader is, it's not my turn. I have a way to make you awaken your abilities 100%, Lin Chen continued to tempt her. Finally, Liang Siki couldn't hold back any longer and voiced her doubts. "Aren't you afraid that after I awaken my powers, I'll have the ability to protect myself or even fight back, and might go back on our promise?" She couldn't fathom Lin Chen's intentions. This act of actively granting power seemed fraught with risk to her. Lin Chen's lips curled slightly as he glanced at her. His gaze was enigmatic, carrying a calm confidence that commanded everything. "Go back on my promise? Why would I go back on my promise? Can't you be more loyal to me and more willing to keep your promise because you've gained power and are grateful?" Of course, he wasn't afraid. For those with powers awakened by the creation crystal, loyalty stemmed from the guidance and shaping at the soul level, making betrayal virtually impossible. This was one of his greatest trump cards. Liang Siki fell silent. She was an extremely intelligent and pragmatic person, and quickly grasped the situation. The current situation was crystal clear. As a weak woman with no combat experience, carrying two elderly and ailing parents in a zombie-infested, humanity-destroyed apocalypse, she was simply a lamb to the slaughter, with an extremely slim chance of survival. Finding a powerful and reliable backer was the only way to survive. Lin Chen's demonstrated strength was undoubtedly the most ideal choice at present. Moreover, this backer wasn't a greasy, overweight middle-aged man or a tyrannical and uncouth scoundrel. On the contrary, he was a few years younger than her, handsome, and possessed a unique charm amidst his cold demeanor. Regardless of Lin Chen's motives for proposing that additional condition, for her, given the absolute need to survive and protect her parents, this deal wasn't a loss. In fact, from a realistic perspective, it was quite worth it. "I want to." She no longer hesitated, uttering a single word clearly and firmly. The desire for power, the desire to survive better, overwhelmed all doubts. Very good. Lin Chen nodded in satisfaction, taking out a creation crystal and handing it to Liang Siki. Eat this, and you'll awaken your supernatural abilities. Liang Siki didn't hesitate, taking it and putting it in her mouth. The crystal melted instantly upon entering her mouth, transforming into a clear, gentle, yet vast and boundless energy that surged through her limbs and bones, cleansing her meridians and permeating her cells. A moment later, a wealth of profound information, as if enlightened, naturally and clearly emerged in her consciousness. When she looked up at Lin Chen again, her eyes had undergone a complete transformation. The previous wariness, apprehension, and complex emotions arising from the transaction quickly dissipated. In its place was a deep-seated worship, trust, and sense of belonging, almost fanatical, yet incredibly natural, as if it were an emotion she was born with. How do you feel? What ability have you awakened? Lin Chen asked with interest, also curious about what kind of ability this intelligent, tech-savvy beauty would gain. Liang Siki took a deep breath, suppressing the excitement brought on by the powerful strength and information she had received, her voice trembling slightly with excitement. S-rank special ability, Core Intelligence Awakening. Chapter 66 Warmth in the Apocalypse. Liang Siki struggled to process the information flooding her mind, trying to explain the function of this superpower. Simply put, I can consume mental energy and superpowers to imbue specific hardware and software chips with true intelligence. Not artificial stupidity based on algorithms, but intelligent life forms with independent thinking, learning abilities, and even emotions. To demonstrate more clearly, she immediately took out her smartphone from her bag. She held her breath, her eyes slightly closed. An invisible, intangible force spread from her body, slowly enveloping the phone. About a minute later, she opened her eyes, and the superpower fluctuations subsided. Then, an incredible scene unfolded. The phone screen automatically lit up, and a Q-version little girl's head, composed of simple lines, appeared, blinking its eyes. A clear, childlike voice rang out, "Mommy! Mommy!" Liang Siki's eyes instantly shone brightly, the excitement of a tech enthusiast witnessing a miracle. As a senior artificial intelligence engineer, she knew all too well what this meant. The so-called artificial intelligence of today is essentially still precise pattern matching and probability calculation, lacking true consciousness and creativity. What she had created was a nascent form of intelligent life with a potential for self-thinking and learning. Excitedly, she turned her phone towards Lin Chen. The chibi-style girl on the screen looked at Lin Chen, her childish electronic voice tentatively asking, Are you my dad?" Lin Chen's curiosity was completely piqued. Another S-class ability. And the Core Intelligence Awakening, something he'd never heard of in his previous life. Currently, this ability seemed to lack direct combat capabilities, requiring external equipment to function. But who could say for sure? What if the ability upgraded in the future, creating an intelligent life capable of offense and defense? The potential of every S-class ability was immeasurable. Liang Siki named this first truly intelligent life, at least the first truly intelligent being on Earth, that she had personally bestowed upon it, Little Fish. Her greatest hobby was raising fish, and she had dreamed of having an intelligent aquatic companion who could understand and accompany her. The atmosphere became much more relaxed for the rest of the journey. The two chatted and laughed, discussing the various possibilities of the ability. When passing large supply depots, Lin Chen would stop and quickly loot with Liang Siki. Liang Siki would try to connect Little Fish to the found electronic devices, such as tablets and old laptops, which Little Fish could easily bypass firewalls. It could also control multiple devices simultaneously, acquiring or implanting information. In this way, they leisurely traversed half the city, almost like on a picnic, finally returning to the university town area as dawn approached. They appeared in Shuxiangyun, an upscale residential area just one street away from the Xianshu Garden Villa area. The two got out of the car, and Lin Chen stored the armored SUV in his special storage, taking Liang Siki's slightly cool hand. "Close your eyes, relax," he whispered. Liang Siki closed her eyes as instructed. The next moment, Lin Chen activated special teleportation, and the two figures suddenly disappeared at the entrance of the residential area. Avoiding scattered zombies and obstacles, after several flashes, the two silently appeared at Liang Siki's house, standing in the familiar living room. The lights inside were dim, with only a warm floor lamp illuminating the room. Unlike those in apocalyptic movies, the two elderly people weren't filled with fear and despair. Instead, they sat side by side on a large fabric sofa, each engrossed in a book. The warm orange light shone on their gray hair and focused profiles, revealing a tranquility and peace honed by years of experience. Liang Siki's parents were both retired professors from Yangcheng University of Technology. Truly, they were highly educated intellectuals who had immersed themselves in books throughout their lives. Even during these 3 days of the apocalypse and the upheaval of the outside world, their dedication to knowledge remained unwavering. This composure was truly admirable. Fortunately, the two elderly people didn't go hungry. The older generation often stockpiled food. Their home was well stocked with rice and flour, and the cupboards were neatly arranged with canned goods, dried goods, bottled water, and condiments. They even temporarily replanted scallions and lettuce in their small flower bed on the balcony. With their consumption habits, they were more than capable of surviving the initial chaotic 3 days. Even more fortunately, on the morning of the outbreak, they were on their balcony drinking tea, reading, and tending to their plants, enjoying the peaceful morning light of retirement. Unlike many elderly people who rushed to the morning market with their commuters, they avoided the initial and most chaotic wave of outdoor infections and were able to stay safely at home. At that moment, they were peacefully reading and didn't even notice the arrival of the two. Dad, Mom. Liang Siki's voice was choked with suppressed sobs, and her eyes instantly reddened as soon as she spoke. Seeing her parents safe and sound, even maintaining their usual habits, the anxiety that had been hanging over her for days finally subsided. The worries, fears, and helplessness of the past few days, all these emotions intertwined and turned into hot tears that streamed down her face. The two elderly people looked up from their books, initially bewildered, but when they saw their daughter with tears streaming down her face at the edge of the lamplight, their faces instantly lit up with immense joy. Xiaoqi. It really is Xiaoqi. You're back. They hurriedly put down their books and rushed forward, staggering but eager. The family of three embraced tightly in the center of the living room. Mother Liang gently stroked her daughter's hair, while Father Liang patted her back, their voices trembling. It's good you're alright, it's good you're back. Soft sobs, concerned inquiries, and murmurs of relief at surviving the ordeal filled the small living room. Lin Chen stood quietly in the shadows a little further away, silently watching this heartwarming scene, his nose inexplicably stinging, his eyes slightly moist. As an orphan, he had never seen his parents, didn't know their faces or names, and had no idea why they had abandoned him at the orphanage gate on that cold night. Family ties were the softest, yet most untouchable corner of his heart. Witnessing Liang Siki's unreserved love and joy at their reunion with her parents, he felt a pang of indescribable envy and sorrow. 10 minutes later, the three of them calmed down. Mother Liang wiped away her tears, her gaze finally moving past her daughter's shoulder to Lin Chen, who had been quietly standing beside her. The old woman's eyes were gentle and kind as she carefully examined Lin Chen. The young man was tall and handsome, with clear, bright eyes. Although he possessed a cool and composed air, his gaze towards his daughter was not frivolous. Liang's mother smiled with relief, her voice gentle. Young man, you must be Xiaoqi's boyfriend? This is the first time I've met you. I didn't expect you to come at this time. I'm so sorry to trouble you. In her view, who would be willing to cross a perilous city on a terrifying night filled with zombies and bloodshed to bring a girl stranded at the port home? Upon hearing this, Lin Chen quickly stepped forward, bowed slightly, and said respectfully, Hello, Auntie. Hello, Uncle. My name is Lin Chen, and I'm Xiaoqi's boyfriend. I'm sorry to have worried you both, it's what I should do. Liang Siki's cheeks flushed instantly, reaching her ears. She and Lin Chen had known each other for less than 12 hours, and most of that time had been spent traveling. She couldn't refute these words, nor could she. It was an unspoken agreement between them, one of the prices she paid to go home and see her parents. Moreover, after consuming that miraculous creation crystal, the sense of belonging and even an indescribable closeness she felt towards Lin Chen had taken root in fertile soil, growing rapidly and penetrating to her very core. Hearing Lin Chen openly acknowledge this identity, she felt no resistance or resentment, but rather a surge of, a faint shyness. Father Liang also approached. He wore glasses, possessed a refined air, and though older, his eyes were clear and wise. He glanced at his daughter's slightly flushed cheeks and her dependent posture, standing half a step behind Lin Chen, and then at Lin Chen's composed demeanor, understanding the situation quite clearly. He reached out and shook Lin Chen's hand, his tone steady and grateful. Little Lin, thank you. Your aunt and uncle will remember this kindness. You must have had a long journey. Lin Chen quickly waved her hand, indicating it was nothing. Chapter 67 Family Banquet. The two men exchanged polite greetings for a while. Old woman, hurry up and cook. It's Xiao Lin's first time back, we have to prepare a proper meal. Mr. Liang snapped out of his reverie, his face beaming with hospitality. It was his son-in-law's first visit, and as the head of the household, he had to make a good impression. Mrs. Liang, however, looked worried. What are we going to do now? We're almost out of water. The tap water was contaminated, smelling of blood, and they dared not use it anymore. The remaining purified water was too precious to drink, let alone enough for cooking. This. Mr. Liang choked, his earlier assertive manner instantly deflated, and he could only awkwardly rub his rough hands, mumbling something indistinctly. Auntie, I have water. Lin Chen smiled upon seeing this, and with a thought, 2 brand new bottles of mineral water quietly appeared on the living room floor. Mrs. Liang's eyelids twitched, secretly surprised. This child is no ordinary person. Where did he conjure up this water? Mr. Liang's pupils contracted slightly, a thoughtful seriousness flashing in his eyes. He seemed to have thought of something, his lips moved, but he didn't speak, only his gaze on Lin Chen deepened. Liang Siki, on the other hand, wasn't surprised at all. She had already witnessed Lin Chen's abilities. So, she cheerfully picked up a bucket of water, took her mother's arm, and led her to the kitchen. Mom, don't just stand there, let's cook. What she didn't know was that the elderly couple already had a heavy weight on their hearts. They were old and had never held out much hope for survival in the apocalypse. They had gritted their teeth and endured until now, their only wish being to see their daughter one last time. Now, not only had they seen their daughter return unharmed, but she was also accompanied by a steady and reliable young man, and they could even sit together and share a hot meal. To them, this was God's final mercy. Before the meal, Mr. Liang called Lin Chen to sit down on the old sofa, his expression unusually serious. Lin, you and Siki aren't really boyfriend and girlfriend, are you? The old man asked bluntly. Lin Chen was slightly taken aback, not expecting the other party to be so perceptive. He calmly met the other's gaze, waiting for him to continue. That Siki can't keep things to herself. If she really had a boyfriend, she would have told us loudly long ago, not waited until now to bring him home. Mr. Liang's tone was gentle, but every word was clear. But you managed to bring her back safely from that chaotic place at the port? You must be quite capable. I'll remember that favor. He paused, fine lines appearing at the corners of his eyes, his voice lowering slightly. Just now she didn't deny the boyfriend thing, and when she looked at you, her eyes lit up. That means she accepts you. I can tell you're not exactly a saint, but your eyes don't suggest evil either, and you act with method. With Siki with you, we feel at ease. Saying this, he reached out and gently patted the back of Lin Chen's hand. After this meal, take her away. Find a safer place, don't worry about us two old folks. Uncle, I'm capable enough to protect everyone, and supplies aren't a problem. Why do you insist we leave? Lin Chen asked, puzzled. Mr. Liang gave a bitter smile, a smile tinged with weariness and clarity. Your aunt and I are practically half buried in the ground. In this world, living is just a burden. Even if you can find food and drink, when will this apocalypse end? We don't want to become the stones that bind you. He was silent for a moment. This professor, who had spent half his life teaching on the podium, now seemed so powerless. His vast knowledge couldn't save the collapsing world, nor could it protect those he wanted to protect. He could no longer understand this sudden, barbaric era. Lin Chen looked at the deep gray in the old man's eyes. 5 years of hardship in the apocalypse had touched his heart, which had long since turned cold. He said seriously, Uncle, I don't know when the apocalypse will end. But as long as I'm here, I won't abandon any of you. Upon hearing this, Mr. Liang's eyes suddenly reddened. A young man who could accept his aging burden without hesitation in the apocalypse, that kind of character and responsibility was worth more than 1,000 words. The last weight on his heart regarding his daughter's future finally slowly lifted. The two talked for a long time afterward. When Lin Chen mentioned that he was already stockpiling supplies, gathering manpower, and planning to establish order based on zombie crystal cores, Mr. Liang nodded repeatedly, his eyes flashing with approval. This son-in-law was ambitious and had a broad vision. Lin Chen also gradually discovered that this professor, with a science and engineering background, possessed an astonishingly deep understanding of history, society, and even the humanities. His speech was rich in classical allusions, and his unique perspective far surpassed that of ordinary scholars. Suddenly, Mr. Liang's expression turned serious, and he asked, "Lin, have you thought about how can civilization continue?" Lin Chen was taken aback. "I am indeed trying my best to rescue survivors." As for the point about prioritizing the rescue of women, he wisely swallowed it back. "I just heard you say that you collect supplies but never books, is that right?" Mr. Liang's gaze was piercing. "Yes." Lin Chen's heart skipped a beat, vaguely grasping something. Seeing his expression, Liang's father knew he had grasped the point and said earnestly, "Human civilization over thousands of years has relied not only on the propagation of bloodlines, but also on the transmission of ideas, history, and skills. Books are the shells of these. Now, electricity can be cut off at any time, and electronic data can be destroyed overnight. Only words printed on paper are the most reliable spark." "I understand," Lin Chen nodded solemnly. He suddenly realized that even with the system, space, and power, his vision was still narrow in the face of the long river of civilization. He immediately decided, after settling things here, he would immediately plunder the university town's library. National Father University has the most complete collection, especially ancient books and scientific documents, which are very well preserved, Liang's father added, his tone carrying the unique appreciation of a scholar. "Thank you, uncle," Lin Chen thanked him solemnly. At this moment, he not only gained the approval of a father-in-law, but also the guidance of a wise man. In the apocalypse, survival is undoubtedly the iron law, but if one forgets why one lives, even if humanity survives, it is no different from the living corpses wandering outside. "What are you talking about?" "Dinner's ready." Liang's mother's call came from the kitchen, carrying the warm scent of cooking. The four sat around the table. Liang Siki even brought out a bottle of her treasured red wine. The candlelight flickered, and the aroma of food filled the air. This brief but precious warmth in the apocalypse seemed to shut out all the gloom. The meal was eaten slowly, lasting over an hour. Laughter, reminiscences, and mundane everyday conversations were like the last embers of a fire, weak yet stubbornly resisting the howls and despair outside the window. The sky had fully brightened. The blood rain gradually subsided, leaving only the occasional dripping sound from the eaves. After dinner, Lin Chen went to the balcony alone. Liang Siki silently followed. In the distance, zombies still roamed the streets, emitting tireless low howls. "What's wrong?" Liang Siki couldn't help but ask, noticing the strange look on Lin Chen's face. "The blood rain is about to stop," Lin Chen murmured, his face expressionless. Chapter 68 Blood Rain Stops. It was 8:58 a.m. on the fourth day of the apocalypse. He knew the first catastrophe was about to end. "Xiao Chen, is the rain going to stop? Is the disaster over?" Liang Siki's eyes brightened slightly, her tone carrying a hint of uncertain hope. "The first disaster is about to end." Lin Chen's voice was as calm as iron. "The first disaster?" The light on Liang Siki's face quickly faded, replaced by heaviness. "You mean, there's more?" "Yes." Lin Chen looked at the leaden sky and slowly said, "After the blood rain, there will be extreme cold, global temperatures will gradually drop below -70 degrees Celsius, blizzards will freeze everything, and everything will be solidified, like an ice age. And the transition period will only last 3 days. The two elders standing behind them listened to these words, their faces initially filled with deep worry, but then their eyes slowly calmed down, becoming unusually calm and resolute. Liang Siki's body trembled slightly, and a bottomless fear welled up in her eyes. How could humans who had just survived the blood rain and zombies survive in a frozen hell of -70 degrees Celsius? Just imagining it made her fingertips go cold. "Siki, pack your things, we have to leave." Lin Chen's voice pulled her back to reality, calm and steady. "Leave, where to?" She looked up blankly. "To Xianshu Garden, I'm going to build a shelter there. Remember?" Lin Chen smiled slightly, a smile that carried a reassuring power. Yes." Liang Siki suddenly realized, immediately turning around to grab her mother's hand. "Mom, hurry up and pack." Liang's mother didn't move, only looking at her daughter tenderly, tears welling in her eyes, her voice very soft. "Siki, you can go with Xiao Lin. Your parents will stay here." "Mom? It's very close, let's go together." Liang Siki hadn't yet caught the farewell in his words. "Silly girl," Liang's father interjected, trying to make his tone light. It's easier for two people to move around. We're old, we'd only be a burden if we came along. He smiled, but behind that smile was a heavy, almost tragic love. Lin Chen watched quietly, then suddenly spoke, "Uncle and Aunt, if you really don't want to travel, I have another place I can take you, a place like a Shangri-La." Shangri-La. The three of them were stunned. Lin Chen didn't explain further, only extending his hand. "Siki, hold your uncle and aunt's hands, close your eyes, calm your mind, and don't resist." Despite their doubts, they did as he said. Lin Chen's mind stirred. In an instant, the world changed. This time, he chose a wide, tranquil riverside meadow upstream, far from where he, Jiao and the others were. "You can open your eyes now," Lin Chen said softly, his fingertips gently squeezing Liang Siki's palm. The three slowly opened their eyes. A gentle breeze rustled the grass, the river flowed softly in the distance, the sky was clear, and the scent of grass and trees was fresh. Compared to the bloody and filthy apocalypse, this place was peaceful and serene, without screams or death. "Xiao Chen, where is this?" Liang Siki looked around in shock, her voice trembling. Liang's parents also stood frozen in place, their faces filled with disbelief. "This is my special space," Lin Chen said calmly but firmly, "a new world that is growing. There are no zombies, and no natural disasters. Uncle and Aunt can live here in peace, that's why I dare to promise Siki that I can take good care of you." "Xiao Chen." Liang Siki looked at him. Then at this fairyland-like world, and a surge of gratitude and overwhelming emotions instantly broke down her defenses. Ignoring her parents' presence, she suddenly threw herself into Lin Chen's arms and kissed his lips forcefully on tiptoe. The kiss was filled with the relief of surviving a disaster and the excitement of escaping a desperate situation. Only when she was a little out of breath did Lin Chen pull away slightly and whisper in her ear, "Uncle and Aunt are watching." "Ah!" Liang Siki gasped softly, her cheeks instantly burning red, but she still clung to his waist, burying her burning face in his shoulder. Lin Chen smiled and said to the still shocked elderly couple, "Uncle and Aunt, please settle in here for now." With a thought, a fully equipped RV appeared on the grass. "Siki and I will go and move everything from the house in." The two returned to reality and, in just a few minutes, moved everything the Liang family could take, furniture, clothes, photos, and especially the books that Liang's father treasured, into their special storage. When they returned to the Creation Pearl, Liang's parents had already begun silently sorting through the old items they had moved in. The yellowed pages and old-fashioned ornaments each carried the weight of bygone years. Lin Chen and Liang Siki helped tidy up for a while, and then Liang's mother gently pressed her daughter's hand. "Xiao Lin, Siki, you two go and attend to the important matters outside. We'll take our time tidying up here." Lin Chen put down an old porcelain vase and stood up. Liang Siki understood, her parents were now safe, but the outside world was at a critical juncture where every second counted. He took out a motorhome and placed it by the river. "Uncle and Aunt, please settle in first. I'll build you a comfortable house here in a while." Lin Chen also left a large amount of fresh ingredients and clean water. "Mom and Dad, we'll head out now," Liang Siki said softly. Lin Chen took her hand, and in a flash, they were back in the spacious and quiet living room of the Liang family home. "Come on, let me introduce you to the others." He put his arm around Liang Siki's waist and headed straight for the Tinglan Hotel, where Li Yat and the others were already waiting together. The blood rain had stopped, and an eerie silence permeated the streets. More than 10 minutes later, the hotel came into view. In the lobby, nearly 500 people stood in a dark mass, more than 300 new faces than yesterday, yet they were all orderly. Li Yat saw Lin Chen at a glance, her eyes instantly lighting up. Without hesitation, she rushed over, like a bird returning to its nest, throwing herself into his arms, completely ignoring the stares of those around her. Lin Chen smiled and caught her, giving her a tight hug. Immediately afterward, Su Yun, the twin sisters, Liu Fifei, and others surrounded him, each taking a hug. Even the usually reserved Liu Fifei blushed instantly upon being gently embraced by him, lowering her head and stepping aside. Li then noticed Liang Siki beside Lin Chen, blinked, and flashed a bright smile. "This sister, are you also with Brother Lin?" Liang Siki looked at the group of women with outstanding looks and diverse temperaments, especially Li's youthful and radiant beauty and naturally affectionate manner. Her face slightly flushed, and she nodded, "Yes, I am." Li immediately took her hand warmly. "Welcome, sister. Come, let me introduce you to everyone." As she led Liang Siki into the group, she was a little surprised. Brother Lin only brought one person back this time? Once everyone had calmed down, Lin Chen surveyed the room and asked, Zioya, is everyone here? Yes, Brother Lin, Li Ye reported solemnly. Yesterday, we rescued 325 people from the 2 universities, plus our existing sisters, and the 2 who volunteered to stay at the hotel. Most of the other survivors hurriedly left after the blood rain stopped. We took the hotel's inventory, they'd just be waiting to die if they stayed. Good. Lin Chen's expression hardened, and his voice echoed throughout the hall. Now, everyone move out. Destination, Xianshu Garden. The team quickly arrived at the grand but now dilapidated gate of Xianshu Garden. Many zombies that had poured in from the streets roamed the complex, their hoarse growls echoing between the empty buildings. Lin Chen quickly distributed weapons to the new members, arranging for experienced members to mentor new ones, with Li Yan in overall command, dividing into small teams to clear out the zombies section by section. This would be their future home, it had to be completely eradicated. All the survivors found in the villas were gathered and taken to the central landscape plaza. Lin Chen encircled the entire perimeter of the residential area, retrieving a large number of empty heavy shipping containers from his special storage to construct a sturdy and tall temporary defensive line. After completing the fortifications, he arrived at the plaza. Of the 61 villas he searched, only about 50 survivors remained. Among the crowd, several women of exceptional beauty and elegance stood out. After all, this was a top-tier villa district in Guangzhou, its residents all wealthy and influential, including many meticulously groomed and strikingly beautiful women. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69 Returning to the Villa. Lin Chen walked up to the crowd, his gaze calmly sweeping over their bewildered faces. He announced loudly, Gentlemen, I am Lin Chen, the leader of this post-apocalyptic self-rescue team. I plan to establish a long-term shelter here. However, as you can see, we have a large number of people, and our accommodations are limited. Therefore, I would like to rent your vacant villas. He paused briefly, allowing the information to settle. The rent is simple, 3 bottles of purified water and 3 packs of instant noodles per villa per day, until we voluntarily evacuate. Of course, anyone willing to join us and fight for survival is warmly welcome. What do you all think? The survivors exchanged glances, their eyes meeting silently in the air. They knew in their hearts, though the bloodshed had stopped, the world had collapsed, and law and order had long since vanished. The other side was armed. If they truly wanted to seize the property, no one could stop them. The fact that they were willing to offer supplies for rent was already a great concession. Everyone who could afford to stay here was a shrewd individual. Several strikingly beautiful female survivors discreetly observed this peculiar group. Aside from their leader, Lin Chen, who was male, the rest were all young women, each radiating energy and impeccably dressed. They exchanged glances, understanding immediately, in this apocalypse, the leader's strength and resources must be unfathomable to maintain such a force. And the existence of superpowers was no secret. Joining a seemingly stable and capable group, attaching themselves to a powerful figure, was perhaps the wisest, even the only, way to survive. Some showed a calculating expression, while others secretly breathed a sigh of relief. At least, it seemed they wouldn't immediately face violent conflict. The atmosphere in the square subtly shifted in silence. After some quiet discussion, the survivors reached a basic consensus and elected a representative. At this moment, a man of about 50 years old stepped forward, his tone cautious and respectful. Mr. Lin, we are willing to accept your conditions. However, we have a few small requests. I wonder if you could grant them? His name was Zhou Xianyan, a former industrialist with assets worth billions before the apocalypse. However, with the collapse of order, his former wealth and status had vanished. He had tried to contact old connections for official assistance, but those relationships seemed to have been severed during the bloody catastrophe. Reality forced him to rethink his way of survival. After all, what hardships hadn't someone who started from scratch endured? What lowliness hadn't he shown? His current humility was merely a survival instinct. He wasn't one of those stubborn people who clung to pride and were oblivious to the times. Speak. Lin Chen nodded indifferently, neither agreeing nor disagreeing. Could we have some time to pack up our personal belongings? Zhou Xianyan asked cautiously. Sure, 1 hour, Lin Chen readily agreed. Also, could we exchange other items for supplies from you in the future? He probed. Sure, but I won't accept just anything, Lin Chen said calmly, yet with an undeniable air of authority. Zhou Xianyan felt a sense of relief, quite satisfied with the outcome of the negotiation. He was always adept at assessing situations, and now he felt his judgment was even more accurate. After a moment's hesitation, he mustered his courage and made one last request. Mr. Lin, could you reserve 2 more villas for us? There are 50 of us here, and we're willing to pay 2 less in rent. As soon as he said it, his heart tightened, and he anxiously observed Lin Chen's reaction. Forget about the villas, Lin Chen refused decisively, his tone leaving no room for negotiation. You can stay in the property management building. That's it. A cold wind was picking up, and the temperature was dropping. He didn't want to waste any more time. We'll come back to collect the houses in an hour. With that, he turned and led the women straight towards Liya's villa. HMPH, what's with the attitude? She'll be dealt with by the authorities sooner or later. A well-dressed woman in her 60s muttered under her breath, her face full of resentment. Liya, walking at the end of the group, paused, then turned sharply to stare at her. Lin Chen raised his hand, signaling the others to continue. He trusted Liya to handle it. The survivors around the woman immediately scattered a few steps, fearing they would be implicated. What are you going to do? The woman's voice trembled, her legs shaking. Say what you just said again, Liya said coldly. I didn't say anything. The woman's eyes darted around, avoiding eye contact. Say it again. Liya's voice was even colder, her right hand already subtly resting on the hilt of her gun. Seeing that the other woman wouldn't give up, the woman shouted, her voice trembling with fear, my son-in-law is the deputy mayor of Yangchang. If you dare touch me, he will never let you off. I said. A cold glint flashed in Liya's eyes as she drew her gun and pressed it against the woman's forehead. Say what you just said again, verbatim. The woman was so frightened that she wet herself, her crotch soaked, and she fell to her knees with a thud, kowtowing repeatedly. I was wrong. I was foul-mouthed. Please don't kill me. I was really wrong. Bang! A gunshot rang out, crisp and clean. Liya didn't hesitate at all. Through Lin Chen's repeated teachings, she had long understood, in this apocalypse, mercy towards potential threats is often the most dangerous thing to do for oneself and one's companions. A deathly silence fell over the surroundings. The crowd trembled, shrinking back like quails, barely daring to breathe. In truth, this woman had a terrible reputation in the neighborhood. Her daughter had long since turned into a zombie, and her so-called deputy mayor's son-in-law had vanished without a trace. No one was there to back her up. Liya holstered her gun and turned to leave, but 2 young women stepped out from the crowd and softly called to her, Excuse me, are you Liya? Liya stopped and looked back. The first woman had an oval face, bright eyes and white teeth, a tall and well-proportioned S-shaped figure, about 170 centimeters. The other had a delicate face, refined features, and was petite and charming, about 165 centimeters tall. Both were quite beautiful, and with a little grooming, they would likely be even more striking. It's me. Do you know me? Liya asked, slightly puzzled. They looked somewhat familiar. My name is Qin Yi, and my mother is Zhang Lan. She and your mother have been best friends for many years and often visit your home. This is my best friend, Li Shishi. Qin Yi pointed to the girl beside her, her voice gentle. Aunt Zhang's daughter? Liya suddenly realized. Weren't you studying abroad? Qin Yi had been studying abroad for many years and rarely returned to China. Aunt Zhang usually visited her from abroad, and Liya had only seen her a few times in photos. I just returned to China a couple of days ago. Qin Yi smiled bitterly, her eyes filled with weariness and helplessness. But as soon as I landed, I was hit by the apocalypse. It feels like all my hard work over the years has been for nothing. Is Aunt Zhang alright? Liya's heart sank, a bad premonition rising within her. On the day of the blood rain, my mother was taking a walk in the neighborhood, and that day, she turned into a zombie. Qin Yi's voice was low and slow, filled with suppressed grief. Yesterday, some neighbors heard that zombie crystal cores could awaken superpowers, so they hunted zombies in the neighborhood. My mother was among them. But they were later scratched and infected. Liya's expression darkened. Another familiar name had vanished in the apocalyptic torrent. Sister Kin, please accept my condolences, she said softly, her tone softening. If you need anything in the future, come to my house anytime. I will do my best to help you. She had a general idea of why the other woman was stopping her. Chapter 70. The team grows stronger again. Qin Yi and Li Shishi exchanged a glance, then mustered their courage to ask, Xiaoya, is your team still recruiting? As expected. Li Yi knew what was going on, but remained outwardly calm, slightly frowning before replying, recruiting is ongoing, but the requirements are quite high and strict. Hearing this, the two women didn't back down, instead, their eyes lit up. As long as you're recruiting. What are the specific requirements? Do you think we meet them? Li Yi's lips curled slightly, her tone light yet authoritative. We only accept women. The benefits include food, lodging, and guaranteed awakening of special abilities. There are 3 requirements. First, an appearance score of 80 or above, and a clean private life. Second, absolute loyalty to the leader. Third, obedience to all commands. Traitors will be executed without mercy. So simple? And the benefits are so good. The two women were overjoyed, almost unable to believe their ears. We want to join. We completely meet the requirements and will definitely obey orders. All right. Li Yi smiled, her gaze sweeping over the two women again. Then follow me. She turned and led the way, in a very good mood. Behind them, apart from a few who were confident in their looks, the rest of the crowd exchanged bewildered glances, inwardly grumbling, this is easy? Just the 80 points or above beauty criterion alone filters out 99% of the people. But despite their complaints, no one dared to voice them aloud. Although this team was powerful, with them around, the zombies were no threat. Even if they could only live in apartment buildings, at least they could survive on rent, better than waiting to die outside. At this moment, a middle-aged man beside Zhou Xianian rubbed his hands together, whispering uneasily, Mr. Zhou, don't you think this weather is too abnormal? It's only September, why is Guangzhou so cold? Zhou Xianian looked up at the sky. It was still clear and blue, but the temperature was clearly abnormal. However, after the strange blood rain, people were extremely vigilant. His expression was grave, something is definitely wrong. Quick, go back and prepare winter supplies. Everyone quickened their pace, rushing home. However, the gloom that had risen in their hearts due to the abnormal weather could not be dispelled. When Li Yi returned to the villa with Qin Yi and Li Shishi, Lin Chen was already waiting in the living room. Although the sky outside the French windows was clear, a cold wind howled, and the temperature had plummeted to the teens. This should have been the humid heat of September in Guangzhou, but now the air felt like it was condensing into white mist, and the marble floor exuded a bone-chilling cold. This abnormality, defying all logic, sent shivers down one's spine. Lin Chen's gaze lingered briefly on the two newcomers behind Li Yi, but he didn't ask any questions. Li Yi looked around, her eyes narrowing. There were over 200 medical workers in white coats in the living room. She immediately recognized He Mijio, Shen Ziyan, Su Jin, and others, and a slight smile appeared on her lips. Sure enough, how could Brother Lin have only brought back Liang Siki after going out? At this moment, the spacious 500-square-meter living room was packed with 719 people. The crowd was dense but not noisy. A tense and oppressive silence filled the air. Everyone can feel it, right? Lin Chen's voice was deep yet penetrating. The temperature is dropping rapidly. This isn't just a normal drop, an unprecedented cold wave is about to hit. Within 3 days, the entire world will be frozen, and the lowest temperature may plummet below -70 degrees Celsius. A deathly silence fell over the room. Some unconsciously wrapped their coats tighter, some rubbed their arms, and others chattered slightly. They were all still wearing summer clothes. Although it was early September, it felt like they were in the Arctic. However, Lin Chen's tone shifted, his gaze slowly sweeping across each young and tense face. As long as you awaken your special abilities, this low temperature won't affect you much. Special abilities will reshape your physique, greatly enhancing your resistance to cold and poison, and even granting you powerful regenerative abilities. He paused, then took out a cloth bag from his special storage. Inside, 363 creation crystals, gleaming with a warm, soft light, lay quietly, emitting gentle and mysterious energy fluctuations, the remaining quantity after today's system refresh. Xiaoya, distribute these. Li Yi stepped forward, took the spirit crystals, and immediately began distributing them, one crystal each for combat members, prioritizing those who joined the team. 33 core members of the medical team were also selected for priority distribution, including Shen Ziyan, Yang Na, Su Jin, Jinmu Io, Wu Ji, and several older, highly skilled male doctors. As the spirit crystals entered their bodies, 363 faint lights lit up in succession, and another batch of people successfully awakened. Himijao awakened greater plant cultivation, a rare auxiliary ability. Her expression was initially surprised, then relieved. She had originally wanted to awaken a combat ability to fight zombies, but in the end, she returned to her old profession, though she quickly adjusted her mindset. The remaining medical staff could only wait in line with envy. After all, they didn't need to go out hunting zombies, so their awakening order was naturally later. At this point, Lin Chen had 540 ability users under his command, all of whom had awakened to a level of A+ or higher. A burst of joyful whispers erupted from the crowd. Many female team members touched their faces with delight, their skin was smoother and their complexion more radiant. For a moment, some even forgot about their own ability type, only focusing on admiring each other and secretly rejoicing. Indeed, for many women, beauty is more alluring than power. At this moment, Su Yun stepped forward and placed several bulging hiking backpacks on the coffee table. Yesterday, after clearing 2 universities, we harvested over 35,000 Tier 1 zombie crystal cores. Lin Chen nodded and took them, but didn't keep them all. He took half and handed the rest back to Su Yun. From now on, I'll only take half of the zombie crystal cores. The other half will be distributed fairly between you and Xiaoya according to your contributions. Everyone needs to improve their strength as soon as possible. He looked around at everyone, his expression solemn. Tier 2 zombies will appear soon, and mutated beasts will also gradually emerge. He said these words to everyone as he turned around. They are not only faster and stronger, but their physical defense has also been greatly improved. Moreover, once zombies reach the 3rd tier, ordinary firearms are almost ineffective against them. And the speed and intelligence of mutated beasts far surpass those of zombies. Lin Chen scanned the entire area again, therefore, everyone must become stronger as soon as possible. If you encounter a high-level zombie or mutated beast that you cannot defeat, do not linger in battle. Retreat if necessary. Survival is the priority, and then immediately notify me, I will handle it. Understood. Everyone responded in unison, their eyes filled with urgency and determination. They had no objection to Lin Chen taking only half of the crystal core. After all, in the apocalypse, superpowers are the hope for survival. Countless survivors had already shared their blood and tears online. The success rate of awakening through zombie crystal cores was extremely low, not even 1 in 10 would succeed, and most would only have F or A level superpowers. The probability of awakening to A level or above was less than 1 in 10,000. But what about them? Everyone started at A+. In comparison, the creation crystals provided by Lin Chen were simply a gift from the gods. Chapter 71 Shelter Planning. Li Ya and Su Yun immediately began distributing zombie crystal cores. Following Lin Chen's instructions, they prioritized replenishing the number of cores needed for existing awakened individuals to advance to the 2nd tier. Soon, the first batch of cores was distributed to everyone. A group of 2nd tier ability users would soon emerge in the team, significantly boosting their strength. However, nearly 200 people in the team had not yet awakened their abilities. Looking at the doctors and nurses still wearing summer clothes, stamping their feet due to the cold, their lips turning purple, Lin Chen frowned slightly. Currently, the production of creation crystals is limited, only 100 per day. He then took out a large amount of winter supplies from his special storage, down jackets, winter boots, warm hats, thick gloves, piling them up across an entire open space. Put these on first. He looked at the shivering people, his voice gentle yet firm. In the next few days, you will all become superhumans. Hang in there a little longer. Then, he began to deploy the overall plan for the base. Our current core task is to efficiently acquire crystal cores. We can't let any zombies or mutated beasts escape. We can buy back high-level crystal cores at a premium. The 11 buildings in front of the villa will be designated as a commercial area to sell survival supplies such as cold weather clothing, food, and clean water. Remember, only crystal core transactions are accepted. The entire commercial area will be coordinated by Sister Yun. He turned to Su Yun. Su Yun replied softly, okay. I will set up a temporary hospital in the plaza area. Dr. Shen, this task is assigned to you. You will be responsible for the setup and daily operation of the medical system. Zioya, you will temporarily organize the combat group into 10 squads, 50 people per squad. If there are not enough people, you can add more later. There will be one captain and one vice captain. One squad will be on duty every day to be responsible for the safety of the shelter. The other 9 squads will go out to hunt zombies. The captains can keep half of the obtained crystal cores as incentives, and the rest will be handed over for unified allocation. Li Yan nodded neatly, understood. He then looked at Liang Siki. Siki, you are responsible for the setup and maintenance of the monitoring network within the entire shelter area to ensure no blind spots. Qi Wei, you are responsible for enchanting everyone's equipment. Qi Wei also nodded in agreement. Finally, his tone was slightly heavy. 3 days later, the city's power and water systems will begin to gradually collapse. Within 7 days, they will be completely paralyzed. But don't worry, I will provide enough power generation equipment, and I also have a way to guarantee the water supply. Lin Chen said a lot in one breath. In his previous life, he had never established a power force, nor did he know how to manage it. But in this life, he could no longer wait passively. He could only rely on his memories of the apocalypse to clearly explain the most important things one by one. As for the specific execution, he trusted Li Yan, Su Yun, and the others' abilities. Li was a gifted leader, and most of the others also had professional experience from before the apocalypse. After everyone had digested the information, Lin Chen added, "The recruitment can't stop, we need more people." Li tentatively asked, "How about we give it to Yingyu?" Lin Chen looked at her questioningly. Before Li Yan could explain, Zhang Yingyu had already stepped forward, her voice filled with unease. "Brother Lin, I made a mistake yesterday. At the normal university, I trusted an acquaintance from before. She attracted a large number of zombies in her attempt to steal crystal cores, causing a small team of sisters to be surrounded. Luckily, Sister Ye arrived in time." Her voice grew softer and softer as she spoke, her head bowed low. Zhang Yingyu wanted to take responsibility, but Lin Chen gave her a cold glare, and she shrank back into silence. Lin Chen's face darkened, his eyes turning icy. The usually lively Zhang Yingyu trembled slightly with fear. After a moment, he spoke slowly, his voice low but silencing the entire room. "Everyone, remember, this is the apocalypse. The order, human relationships, and morality of the old world have all collapsed. Former friendships and camaraderie are utterly vulnerable in the face of survival." His gaze swept across each face like a knife. "From now on, no one is to be trusted except for members of the team. Anyone still clinging to a saintly heart, fantasizing about using kindness to influence others, please leave. I don't need any threats to the team." The crowd fell silent. Most of them were university students around 20 years old, not yet truly entering society, yet already facing a post-apocalyptic world 100 times more brutal than the workplace. Except for a few with strong mental fortitude, most still wore expressions of confusion and unease. They were still struggling to adapt to survival, let alone discerning who was trustworthy and who was dangerous. Lin Chen observed this, his tone softening slightly but still firm. "All right, Zhang Yingsu and Zhang Yingyu will be in charge of the recruitment for now, with Baizin assisting. Yingsu, keep a close eye on your sister. Make sure there are no more mistakes." "Okay, Brother Lin." Zhang Yingsu quickly pulled her tearful sister to agree. He then turned to Liang Siki. "Siki, spread the news of the shelter's establishment. Xiaoyu can handle this." Liang Siki nodded. "Okay. Who is Xiaoyu?" Li asked curiously. "She's an intelligent life form created by Siki's ability," Lin Chen explained simply. Li's eyes lit up, and she immediately grabbed Liang Siki, asking all sorts of questions, wishing she could awaken one herself. After learning that a first-tier ability could only bind to one intelligent entity at most, she gave up reluctantly and instead pestered Liang Siki, promising, "When you advance, you must help me first." Lin Chen then led everyone outside the villa. With a thought, a large amount of kitchen utensils, tableware, rice, flour, oil, meat, and vegetables poured out of the space. "Let's cook first. After we've eaten, we can get to work." The team had already exceeded 700 people, and the villa was stretched thin. Everyone immediately sprang into action, moving pots and pans, washing vegetables and chopping meat. The scene was a little chaotic, but it was all done in an orderly fashion. After satisfying her curiosity, Leah strolled back to Lin Chen's site and said leisurely, "Brother Lin, we should hire some professional chefs in the future." She gestured towards a spot not far away. "Look, Sister Yun is cooking again." Apart from her, Xiao Min, and Xiao Jing, there aren't many people in the team who can cook. Lin Chen looked over. Su Yun was standing in front of the stove, directing the division of labor while personally cooking. The others could only assist. He couldn't help but smile wryly. "It seems I was careless before and forgot to recruit a chef." Sister Yun has realized this problem too, Leah sighed, "but there's a shortage of talent right now, so she has to hold on for now." "You don't want Sister Yun to be a chef forever, do you?" she said softly. "She used to be a senior executive in the company, with first-class management skills. It's a waste of her talent to keep her stuck in the kitchen." Lin Chen felt a little embarrassed. In his past life, he struggled to survive in the apocalypse, surrounded by people who were all multi-talented. He subconsciously assumed this life would be the same. But he forgot that it was only the early stages of the apocalypse. Many people hadn't yet been driven to the brink. He stroked his chin. "You're right. Professionals doing professional work is the way to long-term success." He paused, then suddenly asked, "Xiaoya, do you think Sister Yun has a real talent for being a head housekeeper?" "What head housekeeper?" Leah rolled her eyes. "Sister Yun has the makings of a prime minister." Lin Chen laughed. "You're right. I'll talk to her later and have her oversee the entire base's internal affairs. The commercial area, logistics, personnel, and resource allocation will all be under her control. As for me, I'll just focus on finding resources, clearing out high-level zombies, and fighting people." At this moment, smoke curled from the chimneys, and the aroma of food filled the air. Feeding over 700 people naturally took time and effort. Leah didn't want to waste time, so she turned around and dispatched a small team to collect houses nearby. According to Lin Chen's plan, 50 residential buildings must be integrated and their basic winterproofing renovations completed by today. Otherwise, if a full-blown cold snap hits, down jackets alone won't last more than a few days. Lin Chen then called Shen Ziyan over, and the two walked side by side to the small square at the entrance of the residential area. Chapter 72 The King of the University City in his previous life. The small square was located at the entrance of the residential complex, next to the property management building. "This is where the temporary hospital is located," Lin Chen pointed to the center of the square. "You make your requests, and Yingsu and Yinggai will help you recruit workers. You're in charge of the construction. As long as food is provided, we don't lack labor right now. What supplies do you need? Give me a list, and I'll provide them for you." "Okay." Shenziu nodded, a hint of gratitude flashing in her eyes. They had been trapped in the hospital's operating room, and Lin Chen had risked his life to rescue them. Now, not only were they well fed and clothed, but they could also continue to use their professional skills. She had made up her mind to build the hospital as soon as possible, both to save lives and turn crystal cores for the shelter. As the two were talking, a commotion suddenly broke out at the entrance of the residential complex. There was chaos at the entrance. A young man with bright blonde hair, leading a dozen or so thugs with multicolored hair and disheveled clothes, was beating up Zhou Xianyan, who was lying on the ground. The blonde-haired man was thin, and despite the cold weather, he was still wearing a short-sleeved shirt in a flamboyant manner, with dragon and tiger tattoos on his arms. He kicked Zhou Xianyan hard in the chest, sneering, "Old man, this neighborhood is mine to call the shots from now on. You dare to stop me?" The thugs behind him roared with laughter, their tone arrogant. "Haha, our brother Yu is an A-level ability user, you idiot, you dare to resist? If you know what's good for you, just behave and maybe brother Yu will give you a job. From now on, everyone and everything in this neighborhood belongs to brother Yu, anyone who doesn't obey will die." Zhou Xianyan's face was bruised and swollen, blood seeping from the corner of his mouth, but his eyes remained as calm as ice. He sneered inwardly, "A bunch of fools." On the very first day of the blood rain, he had personally witnessed Lin Chen and Liu hunting zombies. The unfathomable pressure emanating from Lin Chen was far beyond what these clowns could compare to. Unfortunately, Lin Chen's core team was entirely composed of beautiful women, and Zhou Xianyan knew he had no chance of joining. But he still held on to hope that with his own abilities, he might one day be valued by Lin Chen. Just then, a detached voice came from outside the crowd. "Oh? All the supplies and people in this community belong to you? How come I didn't know?" Everyone looked in the direction of the voice and saw Lin Chen walking slowly towards them, a slight smile playing on his lips, as if he were walking on a cold wind. Zhou Xianyan struggled to look up, and the moment he saw Lin Chen, his heart felt at ease. The thugs also turned around, but their gazes were instantly drawn to Shen Ziyun beside Lin Chen. She wore a pristine white doctor's uniform, her face was exquisitely beautiful, and her temperament was gentle yet heroic. These people had never seen such a beauty before. Their eyes were wide open. "Hey beautiful, hello there." The blonde leader, Zhang Yu, immediately put on a frivolous smile and swaggered forward. "My name is Zhang Yu, the brothers all call me Brother Yu. Want to join me? I'm an A-level ability user, I'll guarantee you a life of luxury in the apocalypse." He completely ignored Lin Chen. Lin Chen frowned slightly, took a step forward, and stood firmly in front of Shen Ziyun. She had awakened an A-level life recovery ability, but wasn't good at fighting. Zhang Yu's face darkened, his eyes flashing with ferocity. He knew he had to kill Lin Chen first to establish his authority and control the entire neighborhood. "Kid," he narrowed his eyes, his finger jabbing sharply at Lin Chen's forehead, "were you feeling a bit dissatisfied just now?" Before he finished speaking, Lin Chen's right hand shot out like lightning, grabbing that finger and twisting it. Crack! A crisp sound of bone breaking rang out. "Ah! I'll F yourself. Let go. I'm going to kill you." Zhang Yu screamed like a pig being slaughtered, kneeling on the spot in pain. Lin Chen showed no mercy, kicking him away. Zhang Yu knocked over two of his henchmen behind him, and the three of them rolled around in a heap. The other thugs rushed forward to help him up. Lin Chen then whispered to Shen Ziyun, "Step back." Shen Ziyun nodded and quickly retreated to a safe distance. Zhang Yu struggled to his feet, his face contorted. "Kid, you're finished." Before the words were even finished, he abruptly activated his superpower, gravity space. In an instant, an invisible and heavy pressure enveloped Lin Chen's entire body, as if he were sinking into quagmire, making every movement extremely difficult. Gravity had increased at least tenfold. However, Lin Chen only paused slightly, a knowing glint in his eyes. This superpower, combined with this person's attire and style, he immediately recognized the other party's identity, Zhang Yu, the one who wreaked havoc on the art university in the early days of the apocalypse in his previous life, calling himself the king of University City. Sure enough, Zhang Yu grinned maliciously, drawing a dagger from his waist, and approached step by step. "Locked up by my gravity space, you still want to resist?" The thugs cheered excitedly. In the past, anyone trapped by this move would collapse to the ground, completely at his mercy. It was precisely this technique that had allowed them to fight their way out of the zombie horde. "Your superpower has reached level 2? Lin Chen suddenly spoke, his tone calm. "Second tier?" Zhang Yu was taken aback. "What second tier?" With the apocalypse just beginning and humanity not yet having established a power ranking system, he naturally wouldn't understand. Lin Chen rephrased the question, "You've eaten more than 25 zombie crystal cores?" Zhang Yu's pupils constricted, his expression filled with suspicion. "How did you know?" He had indeed swallowed more than 30 crystal cores, strengthening his body to an unprecedented degree. He had thought that attack was just a result of carelessness and a sneak attack. "No matter how you know," he gritted his teeth, "daring to hurt your brother you're dead today." Before the words were finished, the dagger had already pierced towards Lin Chen's throat like a venomous snake. In his view, under the tenfold gravity, Lin Chen would struggle to even stand, let alone dodge. But the next second, Lin Chen's right hand flashed out again, precisely gripping Zhang Yu's wrist holding the knife, his 5 fingers tightening. "Ah!" Zhang Yu screamed again, the dagger clattering to the ground, his power instantly dissipating. Lin Chen no longer held back. His left hand gripped Zhang Yu's neck like an iron clamp, and with a sharp twist, he snapped it. Crack! The sound of his neck breaking was clear. Zhang Yu's eyes bulged. A final whimper escaped his throat, and his body went limp, lifeless. Silence reigned. The king who had wreaked havoc on the university town in his past life had met his end prematurely. The once arrogant thugs were now ashen-faced, screaming and scattering in all directions. "Did I say you could leave?" Lin Chen said coldly. His voice wasn't loud, but it was as chilling as ice. The thugs froze instantly. "All of you, stand over here," Lin Chen said coldly. Most of the thugs had already realized this man was not to be trifled with, and they trembled as they gathered around. Only two of the fastest runners were about to rush out of the complex gate. Bang! Bang! Two gunshots shattered the silence. The two men fell to the ground. The remaining 13 were terrified, standing trembling before Lin Chen, their heads bowed. "Why did you come here?" Lin Chen asked calmly. We were originally planning to go to the art university," one of the thugs answered in a trembling voice. "We passed by here and found the neighborhood completely surrounded by shipping containers. The boss said even zombies couldn't get in, so we wanted to take it over." Lin Chen's eyes flickered slightly. It turned out that the protective wall he had set up had inadvertently disrupted Zhang Yu's original route to the art academy, triggering this butterfly effect. He turned and walked towards Zhou Xianyan. The latter struggled to his feet, his face bruised and swollen, but he grinned, looking somewhat comical. Chapter 73 Zhou Xianyan. "What's your name?" Lin Chen asked. "My name is Zhou Xianyan." He bowed deeply, his voice trembling slightly but sincere. "Mr. Lin, thank you for saving my life." Lin Chen nodded slightly, his tone calm. "No need to be polite. You stopped these thugs, I should be thanking you. It was my negligence that I didn't arrange for defense." With that, he turned, his gaze sweeping like a blade over the trembling thugs. "You, come here." The 13 men cautiously stepped forward, their heads almost touching their chests, holding their breath. "From now on, you will obey his orders." Lin Chen pointed at Zhou Xianyan, his voice as cold as iron. "He is your new boss. Anyone who disobeys, dies." Yes, the thugs responded hastily, not daring to utter a single dissent. Lin Chen continued, "I'll assign you tasks from now on. If you complete them, you'll receive food and supplies. If you don't, you'll go hungry." He paused, then turned to Zhou Xianyan. "I'll issue the tasks, and you'll distribute the rewards. Anyone who disobeys, no mercy. I only care about the results, you decide the process." "Understood. Understood." Zhou Xianyan's face lit up with joy, his heart surging with elation. He'd gambled correctly. That meeting wasn't for nothing. The thugs, hearing there was food, breathed a slight sigh of relief. At least they wouldn't die for now. The first task, Lin Chen pointed to Shen Ziyan, who had just stepped forward, follow Dr. Shen's instructions and set up a temporary hospital. "Don't worry, Mr. Lin, I guarantee I'll complete the task." Zhou Xianyan immediately straightened his back, as if he were a different person. "Good work will be rewarded extra," Lin Chen said calmly. This group of Zhou Xianyan could practically be considered his outer perimeter team. With his current strength, he didn't care much about the loyalty of this outer perimeter team. Then, he walked to the center of the community gate, waved his right hand, the space slightly distorted, and 3 standard shipping containers appeared out of thin air, landing steadily in a 2 vertical and 1 horizontal layout. "This will be the recruitment office and the guard team's duty room from now on," he explained. "If anyone is disobedient, you can come and find the person on duty. Daily supplies will also be distributed by them. If they can't handle it, they will notify me directly." "Okay, Mr. Lin." Zhou Xianyan nodded repeatedly, his eyes shining with hope. After giving his instructions, Lin Chen and Shen Ziyan turned and returned to the villa. By this time, everyone had already sensed something was wrong. The temperature had even dropped below 10 degrees Celsius, and the wind was biting cold. Back at the villa, Li Yat and the others had also returned. The dining table was already full of steaming food, and everyone sat together, long-lost smiles quietly creeping onto their faces. "Brother Lin, shouldn't we build a canteen?" Li Yu suggested while serving Lin Chen soup. "It's getting colder and colder, we can't keep eating outdoors, can we?" "We definitely need to build one," Lin Chen nodded, then his gaze sharpened. "Do any of you have awakened Earth-type abilities? Especially the kind that can dig tunnels?" He knew that in the apocalypse, the value of underground shelters was immeasurable. Whether it was resisting extreme cold or heat, or escaping zombie hordes or hostile forces, underground fortifications were crucial for survival. And those with efficient digging abilities were considered strategic talents. "Yes," Li Ya smiled. "There are 23 Earth-type users right now, but it seems only Huahua and Ziohe are truly skilled at digging." "Huahua, Ziohe, come here for a moment," Li Ya called out to someone not far away. The 2 young girls immediately put down their bowls and chopsticks and ran over. "Sister Yazi here," they responded in unison, their faces showing both nervousness and anticipation. "Tell Brother Lin about your abilities," Li Ya said gently. Huahua, a cheerful and lively girl from the art academy, spoke crisply and clearly, "Brother Lin, my superpower is a level digging technique. I can dig a 2-meter deep pit in 3 seconds, specifically for trapping zombies. The fire-type sisters can then set it on fire, burning them to ashes. It's incredibly efficient." Xiaohe, a survivor from the teacher's college, was slightly shy. She had only awakened her superpower this morning, and her voice was soft. Mine is sculpting soil technique. I can grasp and shape soil into shields, spears, and even throw them to attack enemies, but I haven't used it in actual combat yet." Approval flashed in Lin Chen's eyes. Very good. But he immediately thought that the roof of the tunnel was prone to collapse after digging, requiring reinforcement. "Are there any metal-type abilities that can harden soil?" he asked. "Yes." Li Ya answered immediately. Teacher Su Qingai was a metal-type ability user, metallization, capable of instantly metallizing any non-living matter, including soil, rock, and wood. She paused, her voice lowering. Teacher Su's husband and children went to the amusement park that day, encountered a bloodbath, and couldn't escape. Before they died, they sent her a final video. Lin Chen was silent for a moment, then nodded gently. He had seen and experienced too much of this kind of pain. Soon after, Su Qingai was invited over. She was the female teacher who had led the begging for food from the twin sisters at the art academy. At this moment, her expression was calm, but her eyes held sorrow. Lin Chen explained his plan in detail. He planned to build a complete transportation network and multifunctional fortification system underground in the community, including a canteen, warehouse, medical area, training ground, and even an emergency shelter. The passageways needed to be sturdy, concealed, and have ventilation and drainage functions. The three of them listened, their eyes lighting up immediately. "This is fantastic!" Hu exclaimed excitedly. "I've been wanting to try digging a large tunnel for ages. I can shape the inner walls of the tunnel into a smooth arc to reduce the risk of collapse," Xiaohe added bravely. "As long as the structure is stable, I can metallize the roof to ensure its sturdiness," Su Yutong said firmly. "Okay," Lin Chen nodded. "You guys are in charge of digging and shaping. I'll use my special abilities to help move the soil and improve efficiency. We'll start working after dinner." "Okay," the three women responded in unison. Lin Chen then turned to Li Yang. "Xiaoya, don't go out today. After dinner, arrange for some people to start patrolling and guarding. I've placed 2 containers at the entrance as guard rooms. The rest of you, take Yunji's people and clean up the villa, remove the corpses, and reinforce all the doors, windows, and walls again, and take precautions against the cold. I'll provide the materials and tools. Although there will be an underground base in the future, people ultimately yearn for the light, and the surface buildings cannot be abandoned." He then said to the twin sisters, "I've also prepared a recruitment office for you. After you finish eating, go and start recruiting. If you're short-handed, find the survivors at the entrance to help out. Give them a chance to survive." "Brother Lin, what kind of talents should we recruit this time?" Zhang Yingsu asked. "Besides continuing to replenish the team members, focus on recruiting a few people who can cook." Lin Chen stroked his chin and then told the 2 sisters about Zhou Xianian. "You can have Zhou Xianian recruit some peripheral personnel, such as chefs or construction workers. Anyone who can help the base is welcome. As for the compensation, for peripheral personnel, only accommodation is provided. Food will need to be exchanged for labor or crystal cores. I estimate that survivors will start arriving this afternoon." "Okay, I understand." The 2 sisters nodded and went directly to the entrance of the community after finishing their meal. Li Yang also arranged for a team of 50 ability users to patrol and guard the area. Although he possessed the Creation Pearl space, which could provide a relatively comfortable living environment, the Creation Pearl was not yet fully developed. There was no night, and the vegetation consisted only of small grasses and trees. Moreover, after his conversation with Liang's father, his thinking had changed somewhat. He no longer merely wanted to survive alone. He wanted to continue human civilization, at least preserving the civilization of China. In this life, he not only wanted to live, but also to uncover the truth behind the apocalypse. However, with the current level of the Creation Pearl, its spatial capacity was limited, at most supporting a small-scale survival, far from sufficient to sustain the continuation of human civilization. The current base still needed to be built and protected. Chapter 74: The bustling recruitment scene. After the meal, everyone went their separate ways to get back to work. Lin Chen's original plan to plunder the library collections of several universities had to be temporarily shelved. The most urgent task at hand was to help Hua and the others quickly establish the framework of the underground shelter. For safety and concealment, the main structure of the shelter was excavated directly 10 meters below Li's villa, with all entrances cleverly hidden within the villa's internal structure. Simultaneously, at a depth of about 3 meters, a shallow network of passageways connecting to other selected villas was pre-drilled, reserving space for internal passage and communication after the snow disaster. All walls and ceilings would be reinforced by Su Qingyu's metallic ability. The metallicide walls would have performance comparable to 30 centimeters of steel. Ventilation openings were all designed in extremely concealed corners. A drainage system was also laid simultaneously, ensuring a path for future sewage treatment. Based on memories from his previous life, the city's power grid and municipal water supply system would gradually collapse in 72 hours. Power outages, water shortages, and sub-zero temperatures, ordinary people without preparation would find it difficult to survive 3 days. Therefore, this underground shelter must be self-sufficient in energy and water. How many generators are needed? How many water pumps and water purification systems? Lin Chen wasn't actually an expert in these technical questions. But he firmly believed in a simple principle: brute force can create miracles. So, with a wave of his hand, he directly planned a super large equipment room, configuring 10 units of each type of key equipment as a baseline. If that's not enough, add more. Anyway, the supplies are plentiful, so just get to work. While Lin Chen and several core members, including Hua, were working enthusiastically underground, a pretty young girl with a ponytail came running up breathlessly with the news: "Brother Lin, so many people have come to the entrance of the community, all wanting to join our shelter. But our current accommodations are simply not enough. Sister Yang asked me to quickly invite you over to take a look." Lin Chen didn't have a deep impression of her, only vaguely remembering that she was a newcomer recruited when cleaning up the art academy area. "You guys continue with the plan, I'll go handle this." Before he finished speaking, he had already signaled the girl to lead the way, and the two quickly walked towards the surface exit. At this moment, the entrance to the residential area was a scene of unprecedented chaos. Inside the plaza, Zhou Xianyan was directing a group of people, including the recently surrendered, trembling thugs and the remaining able-bodied young survivors. The rudiments of the makeshift hospital were being rapidly assembled, using sheet metal, planks, canvas tents. Anything usable was being quickly pieced together. Shen Ziyu supervised from the side. "Hurry up." Zhou Xianyan wiped the sweat from his brow and roared, "You blondie. I'm talking to you, don't slack off. You've been resting for almost 5 minutes. Finish early, and Mr. Lin will reward everyone." As expected of a former CEO of a large corporation, even in the apocalypse, his command and coordination remained methodical, subtly carrying the authority of his past. And his ability to make empty promises was equally impressive. He then walked towards the chaotic entrance. Outside the gate, it was incredibly lively. Suyun's supply exchange point had to start operating ahead of schedule. She knew very well one of Lin Chen's core goals in establishing the shelter: to rapidly accumulate crystal cores. The surging crowd was at its peak of consumption potential. If they didn't seize this opportunity to absorb any zombie cores they might possess, would they wait for them to use them to enhance their strength, turning them into potential competitors or trouble? Liu Fifei, Qi Wei, and others were also on site helping to maintain order, their wary eyes scanning the crowd, guarding against potential riots or looting. A long, winding line of people stretched outside the door, crowding the street. Many were disheveled and pale, but their eyes burned with an almost scorching light, the hope they saw when they were on the verge of death. I saw a message on my phone saying, "It says you can really exchange zombie cores for food here?" A weathered, middle-aged man with an injured arm excitedly asked the person in front of him, accompanied by a 7 or 8-year-old boy who kept sobbing and complaining of hunger. "It's absolutely true." A young man wearing worn-out glasses, who looked like a student, immediately chimed in excitedly, "My classmates just got self-heating rice and compressed biscuits, and bottled water. I saw it with my own eyes. It can't be a scam, can it?" Someone still doubted. "A scam? Look at that wall," another voice chimed in, pointing to the towering container defense line around the community, "and look at the tools those girls on guard are carrying. Who would dare to pull off a scam here? Do they want to die?" The survivors who flocked in from the 3 nearby universities were particularly eye-catching. Professors clutched their briefcases full of research materials, students dragged suitcases stuffed with personal belongings, and even a few canteen staff members trudged in carrying large pots and cooking utensils. Finally, there's a relatively safe place to shelter from the wind and cold. An elderly professor with white hair, supported by a middle-aged colleague, looked at the shelter's gate, his eyes slightly red. The weather outside is so strange, and those monsters. The sisters Zhang Yingsu and Zhang Yingyu, who were in charge of registration, were already overwhelmed with the work. A crowd had gathered around the hastily set up table. Next. Men? Go to the line over there, we're only recruiting young women here. Zhang Yingsu pointed to Zhou Xianyan's outer recruitment area. Listen up, we're only recruiting young women here. Anyone who doesn't meet the requirements, go to the line over there. If you don't follow instructions, you'll be kicked out. Zhang Yingyu's face fell as she looked at the mixed crowd of men, women, and children behind her, and she kept shouting. Several people temporarily recruited from the villa area survivors were also busy helping out. Those who initially met the core team recruitment criteria were politely led by the combat team members on duty to Baizen on the other side for further review. Seeing the immense pressure on order at the entrance, Li Ye immediately called in 2 fully armed combat squads as reinforcements. Li Ye herself also personally supervised the process. In her view, selecting qualified new members for Lin Chen was perhaps one of the most important tasks at the moment. Everyone, line up. No cutting in line. Young female applicants, please line up in the right lane. All other applicants, please line up in the left lane. Seeing Zhang Yingsu and her sister struggling with the chaotic queue, Zhou Xianmin, holding a megaphone, helped organize the order. As one of the earliest veterans to follow Lin Chen, having endured 3 days of trials by fire, she had begun to adapt to life in the apocalypse, and her words carried an undeniable authority. The left lane was mainly managed by Zhou Xianyan and other representatives from the villa area, focusing on recruiting various professional and technical personnel, engineers, doctors, technicians, etc. The right lane was mainly managed by the twin sisters, focusing on recruiting female members who met the core team's requirements. Faced with gleaming gun barrels and strict discipline, no one dared to disobey. However, as the number of applicants snowballed, a most pressing question arose: where would they get accommodation? Chapter 75: The Little Fish's Terrifying Abilities. When Lin Chen arrived at the gate, he saw nearly 1,000 survivors gathered around the shelter, with a continuous stream of people flowing towards them. Behind them followed a number of stumbling zombies, many of whom were being sniped by his team. He frowned slightly. The forced push of information from Little Fish seemed to be working even faster than expected. The speed of its spread was terrifying. At this rate, these people would have nowhere to stay tonight. After a moment's thought, he made a decision: immediately expand the shelter's outer perimeter by another 500 meters. Without hesitation, Lin Chen walked to the edge of the villa area's greenbelt, even occupying land from other nearby residential areas. He began building a wall again using shipping containers. Fortunately, he had collected a large number of standard containers during his previous sweep at the port, otherwise, such an astonishing city-building efficiency would have been impossible. After using up the empty containers, Lin Chen even opened blind boxes on the spot, taking out the contents. Countless items of food, drinks, clothing, tools, even snowmobiles were available. The onlookers were stunned by Lin Chen's astonishing amount of supplies. They no longer doubted the authenticity of the message on their phones. A tsunami of exclamations and discussions erupted from the crowd. My God, am I seeing things? Is this a miracle? Really providing lodging? And food? Where in the world is there such a good deal? What are you thinking? Look at the city lord's supplies. Does he need your food? Exactly. What do you have that's worth being fooled about? This scene reminds me of the US and China 20 days ago. SHH. Keep your voice down. Don't anger that city lord. Otherwise, if you're kicked out, you'll just be waiting to die. It must be said, there were quite a few clever people. Of course, now that it's the apocalypse, no one could report it to the authorities. Even if they did, there would be official power to intervene. For now, all they could do was strengthen their resolve to follow Lin Chen. In less than 2 hours, 2 towering steel walls, each 8 meters high and meticulously constructed from countless heavy shipping containers, rose from the ground, encompassing a large new area and forming a more expansive outer city security zone. Immediately afterward, within this newly designated outer city area, Lin Chen released thousands more shipping containers from space. These containers were cleverly arranged, nested within each other, forming layered and spectacular temporary residential areas. This scale, roughly estimated, after simple modifications, it could easily accommodate tens of thousands of people temporarily. Zhou Xianyan, who had already arrived at the entrance of the complex, gazed at the rapidly rising steel jungle before him and couldn't help but murmur in amazement. His awe of Lin Chen's strength and resource reserves deepened even further. Lin Chen leaped onto a high platform atop the inner city wall, overlooking the dense, expectant crowd below. His voice, amplified by a simple megaphone, clearly resonated throughout the newly formed outer city. To all those willing to abide by the rules and stay, I will provide the tools, insulation materials, and basic necessities needed for building your dwellings free of charge. You will need to build or modify your temporary shelters yourselves. During the construction period, I will provide basic food supplies. As soon as he finished speaking, a deafening cheer erupted from below. Many people moved to tears. But then his tone shifted abruptly, turning icy and chilling, filled with undisguised killing intent. However, if you want long-term food, clean water, medicine, clothing, and all other survival supplies, you can only exchange them for crystal cores, or by working for the shelter. There are no idlers here. His cold gaze, like a tangible blade, slowly swept over every face below. Of course, within the shelter's boundaries, safety is the responsibility of my team, so you can rest assured. 3 ironclad rules: robbers, die; thieves, die; those who intentionally fight or seriously disrupt order, die. Everyone only needs to hunt zombies according to their individual abilities. The 3 chilling die words struck everyone's hearts like a hammer blow, instantly freezing the rising tide of cheers. Many who had initially harbored illusions or ulterior motives broke out in a cold sweat. Many more fell into deep awe and silence. Lin Chen's establishment of these rules was not out of excessive sympathy. He needed these survivors to live, but not as mere expendable resources. He needed them to step outside the relatively safe walls to hunt zombies, gather resources, and create value for the shelter, whether through direct crystal cores or indirect labor. Any internal strife, laziness, or disruption of order would hinder his core objective of accumulating crystal cores and enhancing the team's strength. Such behavior was his enemy. Moreover, he clearly remembered that the second generation he had sworn an oath to in his previous life, along with his family's power, had initially focused their development in the east of the city. In this life, his preemptive establishment of such a large shelter here was tantamount to snatching food from a tiger's mouth. He wanted to see if that spoiled brat who had relied on his family's power in his previous life could easily gather strength here and recapture his former glory. After announcing the rules, Lin Chen said no more, turned, leaped down from the platform, and returned to the inner city villa area to continue focusing on perfecting the underground core shelter. With the rapid establishment of the outer city, the entire shelter had effectively formed a clear inner and outer zoning pattern. The inner city, centered around Li's villa, was the area where the core team resided and controlled the trading hub. It was relatively comfortable, safe, and resource-concentrated. The outer city, on the other hand, was a vast area accommodating ordinary survivors, providing basic protection and trading opportunities, but with relatively rudimentary conditions. Countless survivors gazed at the intact, sturdy villas of the inner city, contrasting them with the densely packed, self-modified container houses of the outer city, their eyes filled with undisguised longing and desire. As a result, more people began flocking to Suyun's resource exchange point, eagerly inquiring about how to obtain crystal cores. Even more flocked to the twin sisters' recruitment point, carefully asking about the specific conditions and benefits of joining the core team. However, amidst this bustling crowd, several groups stood out. They didn't rush to queue or inquire. Instead, they exchanged glances, quietly retreating, disappearing into the shadows of the crowd's edge or the ruins of buildings. Some of them cautiously looked around, then pulled out their phones, rapidly tapping the screen, seemingly sending out some information. Their actions were cautious and discreet, standing out from the crowd around them who were desperately seeking a way to survive. Unbeknownst to them, all their actions were being monitored by the little fish. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.